Hello and welcome back to the Funfiltered podcast. I am Sam and I am joined as sonically ever by Jordan.
Oh, have you done that on purpose?
I have, but it just occurred to me.
Oh, okay.
So look what I did there.
Yeah.
Coming up.
We give you this episode's Rex and this episode's Rex.
And we review Baby Reindeer,
Fallout Season 1,
Knuckles,
and Late Night with the Devil.
Is it a wreck?
Or is it a wreck?
Like a
recommendation.
Or a wreck? As ever, let's start with the Rex and Rex.
Should we start with the Rex?
We'll start specifically with the Rex.
With the Rex. Okay. Clarkson's Farm.
Yes.
Season 3 landed this year, a few weeks ago at the time of recording, but we're kind of going to talk about the show on the whole.
We only had minor history with Clarkson's Farm. I don't remember specifically which episode it was.
Yeah.
But I think there was one point, it had probably been a while since we'd recorded, as it usually is.
Yes.
And we came back.
We're getting better.
We're getting better, yeah. We had a lot to get through, so we were like, right, here's some stuff we're not going to talk about.
Yeah.
Ironically.
Yeah.
And one of the things I said was Clarkson's Farm, because I think I'd watched the first episode and I'd said, oh, this is basically just Top Gear without any of the stuff that made Top Gear good.
Well, just quickly as a sidebar as well, it's amazing to me now that we do Rex and Rex that this is the stuff that wouldn't be on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, we were missing so much.
Yeah,
you know.
No, definitely.
And it explains why those end of the year episodes are always fucking 4 hours. 5 hours long.
No, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, anyway. Yes, you didn't like it.
I didn't like it. And then the second season aired 2023, I think, last year.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah. My father was watching it because he's a big fan of like Top Gear and Clarkson and everything. And I caught a couple of episodes. And there was just something about it. It just seemed a lot better. So I ended up watching all of season 2.
Yeah.
And now season 3 is coming along. And I watched all of season 3.
Yeah.
Pretty much in one go. And then as part of your commitment to watch everything, everywhere, all the time.
Yes.
You were like, all right, I'm going to give Clarkson's Farm a go. And now we're here.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
There's a podcast, we can mention it, can't we? I don't see why not. The Rest is Entertainment, which is Richard Osman and Marina Hyde. And
we'll give them a shout out. Give us a shout out, maybe, if you're interested. Yeah.
And they talk. They're very interested in what's popular and successful. They talk a lot about ratings and what the implications are. So when something is talked about on their show, it signals to me that it's reached a certain level in the culture or with its popularity.
Yeah.
And so I should probably give it a watch just as a cultural observer.
Yeah.
So that's why I watched Clarkson's Farm. And it's very good. I pretty much watched the whole thing, not in one sitting, but kind of other than sleep and other stuff I had to do, it would just be watching Clarkson's Farm.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's turned into something where you could do that. You could just sit down and watch it dawn to dusk.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so we respect farmers on spec, don't we? Everyone it's like teachers and nurses. We all respect them. But then when you watch this show, it just gives you such an overwhelming appreciation for what they do.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot.
Well, that's kind of the magic of it, isn't it? Is that it's ostensibly it's just an entertainment show.
Yeah.
But it is genuinely informative and teaches you so much about farming kind of on accident.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously not what you've gone into the show for.
No, we've gone into it. I think they're conscious of that fact that this is an opportunity to teach people about not just the kind of the rigors and the intricacies of farming, but the lives that farmers, the difficult lives that farmers lead. And that it's been recognised by farming organisations and received plaudits for that. The supporting cast, I think we can call them cast in the category of light entertainment.
Yeah.
They're very likeable and they're funny. A documentary set in the English countryside is exactly the kind of thing I would give a wide berth.
Yeah.
And farming is the kind of thing that I would assume I have no interest in. Turns out I do. Yeah, and it's just how nice to find it as captivating and addictive as it is. And it's very satisfying to see process and progress on film. We've talked about that before with, like David Fincher films. I have an affinity for depictions of maritime logistics that have a verisimilitude about them.
Okay.
So things like Captain Phillips, just where you see the cogs and the gears of shipping.
Okay.
I just like seeing stuff like that on screen. And like I say, I never thought I would for farming. And it's doing a public service in celebrating farmers who really are the backbone of everything.
Yeah.
Especially in this country, as well as its illumination of insane Kafkaesque bureaucracy, which if you've tried to do anything as a business owner, or if you've become involved with anything substantial with the NHS, you know all too well.
Oh, yeah.
Season 2 is essentially just red tape nightmare,
well, yeah, I think season 2 was the turning point for me, and I think it is the point where the show grows.
Yeah, it goes up a notch.
It goes up a notch, because the first season, it is very much in the mold of Top Gear and the Grand Tour.
Yeah.
It's Jeremy Clarkson as being a host.
Yeah.
Every episode is about specifically one thing. I mean, the first episode, they focus on tractors and machinery.
Yes.
So that kind of acts as your transition from the world of Top Gear into the world of Clarkson's farm. And yeah, just like the presentation of it, you can tell that the priority of the show, and kind of by extension Clarkson, was to make an entertaining program.
Yes.
By the time you get to season 2 or 3, you can tell that Clarkson is just running his farm and the show is being made around him.
Yeah, and don't get us wrong, things are set up. There are obviously set up.
There's obviously moments where, things are contrived so that there's a narrative to them. But that is in its favour, because season 2, what's great about season 2 is that, you've got that central spine where he is trying to he's fighting the council because they're just like restriction after restriction after restriction, and they're crippling his business and his practice. And every decision he makes, and therefore every subplot that is born from that, all feeds back into that central fight with the council.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's got a greater narrative cohesion than a lot of scripted shows.
No, it does. Yeah, they found that the documentary is found. I mean, most good documentaries have a narrative spine, even if, truth doesn't exactly work like that.
Yeah.
But life, it is a story in a way. So we'll track this through to its conclusion.
And then season 3, which is the season that's just come out, it's far looser. There isn't like necessarily one central thing, but to compensate for that,
tonally.
Yeah, tonally. Yeah. This shows more about its tone. Like the first half, there's an episode called Harrowing, and it absolutely is.
I just told you I'm rewatching Game of Thrones. It's very much the Reigns of Castamere of
that's a nice way of putting it, actually. Yeah. And then they kind of go up a little bit towards the end. But yeah,
and even if things didn't happen in that exact order, like all was shit, then all was well.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to manipulate that slightly if you're making a documentary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, the general feeling was there was a lot of doom and death, and then things got better. Even if everything you show isn't exactly chronological, I think that's fine.
Yeah, because rather than having a story that you can ride through the season, there's a tone that you can ride through.
Yeah.
And back in season 1, like I said, there's like one thing per episode. Season 3, there's like 20 things happening every episode.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think of it as a sitcom, really. That is how I think of it, especially it's, 6 episodes. And you just see this thing developing.
Yeah.
It's like Roadhouse as well. It's just from nothing, and then gradually it builds a building. Now try this, and that's going to fail, and then we try this.
Yeah.
And the personal relationships develop. The Caleb, kind of the most prominent side character, if you like, he has a child, and though that doesn't figure into the plot, as it were.
Yeah.
That character is growing up and that kind of thing. And it kind of reminds me as well, in a way, of the initial mandate of Doctor Who, which is, it's to teach kids about science. This seems like the kind of show that would be devised to teach people about agriculture.
Yeah.
We're going to just do it through this prism. And that wasn't the point. It's obviously just Clarkson had a farm.
Yeah.
That'd make a good TV show, me fucking up on a farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are just these rare pleasantries that you see in it that you don't see in a lot of shows, or you wouldn't consider. So there are things like when you see people eating food in his pub, not in his pub, in the pub. He's reared the food and then he sold, I think it's fish, and he sold it to the pub. There's just there's this nice sense that the show, in pretty much documenting the 3-sector model of economics, is capturing the social order. It's like The Wire, basically, but for meats and vegetables.
So it's both the Game of Thrones and The Wire, of agricultural documentaries.
Yeah, it's like The Wire, but for meat and vegetables.
Yeah.
You got the sun, the rain, and nature, farming, organisation, delivery, and consumption.
Right.
If they show the diners pooping it out, and the journey of that poop through the sewage system, I'd start singing The Circle of Life. So, like the entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it just reignites my amazement that anything gets done in the world, how fragile the whole system is, Being constantly told, well, this whole crop is fucked.
Yeah.
He says at one point, I have other income streams, so I'm okay. But if this is your entire job, we made 140 quid this year.
Yeah.
And you go, Jesus. And if they fail, we die.
Yeah.
We don't eat things,
Yeah. And it's just nice, in the broader narrative of Clarkson's career, it's a nice endpoint, isn't it? Presumably he's not, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, he's in his 60s now. He could very well go on to do another major project after this one.
Yeah.
But it feels like this is his retirement years now, ironically.
Well, here's the thing.
He's done his duty, going around the world, testing out cars, being this kind of
maverick.
Yeah, this maverick, this kind of brash meathead that's, when it comes to like cars and vehicles and stuff, and now he's going to live a quiet life on farming, where he's concerned about nature and creatures.
Well, the irony is, the whole thing is you're left-wing when you're younger, and you get more right-wing as you get older.
Yeah.
So Jeremy Clarkson is famous for being kind of a right-wing.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. How much truth there is to that is up for debate. I think it's a persona. It's been discussed that, in real life, if you talk to people that work with him, he's a really lovely guy.
Yeah.
And this seems to show that side of him. Yeah. And it's certainly more genuine than the Top Gear. So it's not that he's got more left-wing, though people have said that. I don't think it's true. It is an interesting reverse, where he starts out as this right-wing, Poles, and now he's concerned with conservation and nature and all that sort of thing. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And whether it's the final act, I don't know, but it does feel like the next chapter of his career. He's softer in this, he's more affable, he's more compassionate, and he's doing a genuinely good thing for the world, There's no denying that. And I think his persona is very much an affectation. It's just very pleasant viewing, and it does a public good in that it shows you how much we rely on completely unconsidered mechanisms and unseen people. And just Andy Willman is a hell of a producer.
Yeah.
Going on, the production values of Top Gear and the Grand Tour we've talked about, but same here. Yeah, it seemed obviously parochial by nature, but it's just so amazingly shot.
Yeah.
And the things they capture, and you think, God, the sheer admin and workload that must go into this.
Yeah.
It's not just a camera following him around on a farm. It's showing the entire thing working.
And just the effortlessness in how it's made and how effortless it is to watch.
Yeah.
Like, it's the type of show that you could watch and go, oh, we'll do something like that.
100%.
And then not realise, just the sheer hell that you're in for.
Yeah.
Trying to even be just like a poor imitation of that show.
Oh, yeah, a lot of work goes into it, definitely. And like I say, it works for me on a sitcom level. You have like the types, basically, the archetypes in the supporting cast. You got the main character who's this kind of a Del Boy, if you like, this budding entrepreneur, like, let's do this, let's do that, and he's failing constantly.
Yeah.
You've got Caleb, who's like, the local hick. Yeah. That's brilliant at farming, but knows nothing about the real world.
Yeah.
I think he loses some of his charm after the first season, after the show's become a hit.
Okay.
But not much.
Yeah.
You got Charlie, the straight guy, who just knows everything and is constantly disapproving of things that...
Never plays it up for the camera.
Never plays it up. Yeah, no bullshit.
Yeah.
You've got the guy that no one can understand, Gerald, like just the out there character. And the nice girlfriend, that has her own failures and her own kind of quirks that, she will not stop selling stuff in the shop even when they're not allowed to. And Charlie's great.
Yeah.
He's the standout for me.
Okay.
And just the amount that he knows. Go, how do you know all this stuff? Because it's not just the business side of it.
Yeah.
Because you see, him at work is essentially, he's in an office. Yeah. He's working on spreadsheets and stuff. But when he's in the field, literally, and he's just picks something, look, this is why this won't work. Because the temperature's this. It's like, you have no right to know as much as you do.
Yeah.
And you just nothing gets done without that guy, There are some genuinely laugh-out-loud moments. For me, the moment I always remember is when Clarkson, they're talking about the council, him and Charlie, and he says, we should fight them. And Charlie says, well, fight is the emotive word. We need to put our point across rationally. And it cuts back to Clarkson, he goes, yeah, fight the fuckers. Yeah, and again, it works on both those levels. I think it plays off genuine relationships, but it ends up becoming a sitcom.
Yeah.
I was watching it thinking, oh, how great an adaptation it would be for a sitcom, and then instantly thought, well, no, why would you?
No, it's perfect as it is.
It is what it is, yeah. Also, one of the great things in the third season, I think they're shooting deer. I think they're hunting deer, him and this other guy. And they're in the subtitles, they're just nattering to each other like, okay, go over there and do this now. And in the subtitles, Amazon put it as over-optimistic hunting gibberish. So, like, even the subtitles have character to them.
I like a show that uses everything it's got.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you've always got to worry about infusion of shtick, and I worry that the more and more successful and popular the show gets, that might come into play. That said, I think between season 2 and 3, even 1 and 2, it was a major success.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's pretty much it's the most watched thing in Amazon UK.
Yeah.
Globally, I think very popular. I think pretty much it's the most watched thing in the country.
Okay.
And deservedly so, I would say. It is for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody could watch that show and get something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
See, Zack Snyder, this is how you film farming.
Damn straight, Jord.
Yeah, solid recommendation.
Solid recommendation.
And almost a review in and of itself.
I suppose it was, I just want to speed through all those. Yeah. Conan O'Brien Must Go. Season 1, it's been renewed, so we can say
season 1. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is Conan O'Brien. It's kind of an offshoot of his podcast, which is Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, where people from over the world Skype or Zoom in. And this show is 4 episodes. The next season's going to be 6. Him going to their countries and meeting them and then kind of experiencing the culture.
Do you know, in a way, it's not too dissimilar from Clarkson's Farm, because you've got it's sort of an entertainment show that's kind of wearing the skin of a factual program.
Yes.
With Clarkson, obviously, it's like farming documentaries, and with this, it's a travel show. But really, like, even the premise, which is Conan O'Brien goes to meet his fans in the various countries that they're from, really, it's just an excuse to get Conan O'Brien in this country so you can have a string of comedy segments where he's making fun of that country.
Pretty much.
But, like, in a way where he ends up becoming a butt of the joke.
Well, it feels like a next act as well. Obviously, he had his career. Well, he started as a writer on The Simpsons and then on SNL, and then he ended up hosting, I think it was Late Night with Conan O'Brien, then very briefly The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien.
Yes.
And then went to, PBS to do or TV, whatever it is, to do Conan. And then just over time, the show became whittled down, and it ended up after COVID, like half hour long. And then the podcast, I think, kind of took on steam, so they just thought, okay, we'll focus on that. So yeah, no more like Conan, basically, on TV. And it feels like the next act, much as Clarkson's Farm does, and him doing what he does best, which is no more constraints.
Yeah,
we're just going to put this guy in these situations and he's going to riff.
Yeah.
And the downside of that is some of the bits go on too long.
Yeah.
But not often.
Well, I think that kind of speaks to the strength of the show. The show recognises that Conan is the star.
Yeah.
And so the show pretty much lets him just get on with it.
Yeah.
And it only really pipes up whenever it's called upon to get a laugh.
Yeah.
To help in getting a laugh.
Yes.
But other than that, like, it's like, right, well, you're here for Conan, so let's just watch Conan.
Just riff. And obviously you can swear now and stuff like that. So,
which you were like, I don't know if I needed that.
I don't know if I needed it. I like that he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I don't mind hearing him swear. It's not like, I have heard him swear in other places. But I don't know. He's a late night guy, so it always has that kind of he's for the family and sort of thing. But it's fine. He was always clearly better than the job he was doing as well.
Yeah,
I think it's like every comedian's dream to host the Tonight Show. But he's a Harvard summa cum laude graduate. I think like his paper was ridiculously well received.
Yeah,
I think progeria is like literary progeria in the American South or something like that.
Right. And
he wrote about how, this is a complete tangent, but how children that in works of Southern literature were always very precocious because it was a place that had known loss in a country that hadn't.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's just really, and he talked about Flannery O'Connor and Mark Twain and all that kind of thing. He's a very, very intelligent guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, just on a more relatable level.
Yeah.
Because intelligence, so unrelatable. You said he was a writer on The Simpsons. I mean, look at the episodes of The Simpsons that he wrote.
Yeah, the monorail.
Like, the monorail episode. Yeah. Some of the best received episodes ever written for that series.
Ones that are pure silliness.
Yeah.
That make no sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's a plot, but it's just about gags.
Yeah.
Joke. Yeah, the monorail one is just, like, solidly, it's funny consistently, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, he's obviously a very intelligent guy who's, dumbing himself down to some extent, but is aware of that, and is aware of how ludicrous the whole thing is.
Yeah.
But, so the show, Werner Herzog delivers the opening narration.
Oh, he does.
He does. And it's a shame that you're right, that it's not different every episode.
Yeah.
But having Werner Herzog deliver your voiceover approaches being very trite, because that's a thing now. It's like having Morgan Freeman do it, or Matt Berry.
Yeah, we've just had somebody new start working in the office where I work, and she puts on the radio because she just likes working with the radio. And the radio station that she listens to, all of like the intermediate sections between the songs and the whatnot,
right?
They're all voiced by Matt Berry.
Oh, right, okay.
And he's always doing his Matt Berry thing.
Well, he's not hosting the show.
No, he's not hosting the show. It's just like when the song's over, and he says the name of the radio station.
Oh, he does the interstitial.
Yeah, like being poked with the music of this.
Okay.
Like it's Matt Berry being Matt Berry.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, you're right. Like those three, I suppose, Morgan Freeman as well. They are kind of like we want a weird, quirky voiceover. Let's get this guy.
It's become a cliche, and so you've got to use it well.
Yeah.
And I think it is used well here.
It is, because I think the trap that people often fall into when they get specifically with Werner Herzog is that they want someone that has a weird voice.
Yeah.
So they get Werner Herzog. Whereas for me, anyway, the appeal of Werner Herzog is not just his silly voice. It's his silly voice in tandem with his bizarre, doom-laden vocabulary.
Yeah, for me, it's a different... It's not a silly voice, it's just an unusual... It's a different
I couldn't
voice.
think of a better word than silly. There's a certain character to that voice that's really compelling.
No, it is, but it's not silly. It's just we're not used to that accent, right, in the English-speaking world.
Yeah.
But no, he does have a cadence that's very unique.
Yeah.
But the appeal of Werner Herzog is that he talks about existentialist you know,
And
Doom
they do tap into that.
No, they do.
In these introductions. What's the line? Behold the Defiler, and it just cuts to Conan in like a chicken costume.
Yeah.
So they've used him well.
It's a very well written, funny monologue.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote it, it's very good. The best parts of Conan's shows were always the remotes. Him just going out in the world and meeting people. And he really lets loose and shines here.
Yeah.
It is kind of everything on the table. He was the best American late night host, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think you'd agree?
From what I saw, yeah.
And it's just nice to see him continuing to do stuff. I was kind of worried that his career was over, really.
Okay.
But it's nice that he's still doing stuff. I'm glad for his sake that he's unchained, but swearing, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
But there's also a nice strain of meta humor that's woven throughout, like the drone and that kind of thing. Again, that could be, you're just trying to, it's too on the nose, you're trying to undercut the travel show thing. But I think it mostly works.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, they're considered jokes.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like he just randomly threw it in.
No, 100%, yeah. Anything else?
No, I think broadly speaking, kind of like Clarkson's Farm, your mileage with this show will depend on whether you like Conan O'Brien's shtick.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you don't like Conan, you're not going to enjoy this show. But I think the show is good because it doesn't fight Conan. Like, it knows that he's the star, lets him do his thing. And though it seems quite slight when you're starting, 4 episodes was the right amount for me.
Absolutely. And also, it's something with him that always has to be well negotiated, as we talked about. He's an incredibly intelligent guy.
Yeah.
It's whether he's the butt of the joke or poking fun at people.
Yeah.
And he's always managed that really well. You see his intelligence shine through a lot in the remotes when something goes wrong. But often he's the butt of the joke himself. Yeah. But okay. Yeah, that's it?
That's it.
Right. Love Lies Bleeding.
Okay, I haven't seen this. This is on you.
It is on me. It's good. It's a Coen-influenced joint with a bit of David Lynch as well.
Okay.
There's a place that's referenced in the film called Winkies. Like, I'm going to see you later at Winkies. Now, Winkies, that word will always send a shiver down my spine if you're familiar with Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Winkies from Mulholland Drive?
I'm not, no.
Happens in the car park behind Winkies. It's one of the most terrifying moments in film history.
Okay.
It's Love Lies Bleeding is a neo-noir midnight movie. It's got bodybuilding, it's got lesbians, it's got the Southwest.
Ooh.
It starts as one film, which, while very well and moodily shot, much like The Iron Claw actually, down to the period setting, isn't particularly promising. Then it becomes something else, and something much better. The cast is very good. Kristen Stewart is doing the thing that she usually does now, but it works here. Ed Harris is in it in a villainous role, and he's always reliable and fun to watch. The music was composed by Clint Mansell, he of Requiem for a Dream, and it's very good. I'm not a prude, and there are plenty of straight sex scenes in films that are unnecessarily graphic, but there does seem to be a thing in queer films where they feel obligated to be explicit.
Okay.
And there's a lot of explicit sex scenes in this.
Okay.
Lesbian sex scenes. Besides the sex scenes, the most talked about thing will be the penultimate scene. I won't spoil it for you. And it's a metaphor. Well, it depends on how you view the film.
Okay.
Right? But I would say it's a metaphor, and I admire how audacious it is. But to me, it was very goofy.
Okay.
But the actual ending is very good.
Okay, well, I was going to say, it obviously wasn't enough to deter you, because this is a wreck, not a wreck.
And it's one of those, like, it could ruin the film for you.
Okay.
What the fuck is that?
Right.
But they kind of flirt with body horror kind of stuff throughout.
Okay.
And body morphing and kind of tendons and muscles and that sort of thing.
I'm getting Infinity Pool vibes from the way that you're describing it. Not necessarily like the source of the horror, but just like the conduct of the film, I suppose.
Kind of. Well, it's not a horror film. It's a dark neo-noir thriller psychodrama, sort of. It's like, I know you haven't seen it, but it's like Blood Simple,
okay.
the Coen's first film. It's clearly, and again, the Southwest, it's that kind of vibe, midnight movie vibe, you know, like some B-movie tropes, but art house sensibility.
Okay.
Yes, and that scene, you can kind of go, oh, whoa, that it completely jumped the shark there. But if you view it as a metaphor, maybe not. I still found it goofy, but like I said, the final scene is very good, and I think you like it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
X-Men 97. Season 1. It's very good.
It's a good theme song.
Yeah,
I can't deny that theme song.
This, other than Futurama, is the only animated show that I watch.
Okay.
It's compelling.
Yeah.
There's something about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Marvel Cinematic Universe show now.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a continuation from the X-Men cartoon that came before, but it feels like it now belongs in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
that, like, towards the end of the season in particular, you'll just see other heroes kind of doing their own thing.
I don't know if that was a thing in the original show.
Okay, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but as someone who's not familiar with the original show...
Yes. Yeah, but neither of us are familiar.
No, neither of us are familiar with it. But you kind of start out, like, the first 4 or 5 episodes, it's basically just the X-Men in the X-Men's universe.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden one of them's having a conversation with Captain America.
Yeah.
There's a cutaway to Spider-Man and then Daredevil.
Yeah.
And it does feel like, they're kind of bringing this into the big
picture.
All-consuming black hole.
That is the MCU.
That is Marvel. But, there's some benefit to it in it as well, because characters die in this.
Yeah.
Or a character dies, I suppose, by the end. And it seems like they are dead.
Yeah.
And they're staying dead.
Yeah.
And if one of the things that is now allowed to happen as a result of the multiverse being brought into the Marvel Cinematic Universe being that we can have stories that have consequences to them because they can just jump over to another universe and tell a story in that universe, then I suppose that's nice that we're allowed to have stories that have consequences again.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this before, didn't we?
Yeah.
And, now whenever something is self-contained, they have to issue a press release to tell you it's not connected. And I think I said to you, with all the multiverse rationalizations, they're putting something into context that we used to take for granted, which is that different things are different things.
Yeah.
And that the era of that is over.
Yeah. And that's silly.
Yeah.
That a thing just can't just exist on its own anymore. It has to exist separate from another thing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's one of the best things the Marvel have put out in quite a while.
No, it is.
And it's nice because it's not just another superhero property. It's a continuation. It's a revival of a show.
And a continuation.
A
very direct continuation. Kind of not doing much work to get you on board, really.
Yeah.
Which is what I liked about it as well. Now, I tried watching the original series before diving into this. It's just too much to get through. It was just too much to get through, so I just jumped straight into this. I'm not finding it alienating too much. Not knowing much about the original series.
This is the thing. I think there's been so many superhero films now.
Yeah.
That we're all literate enough in them that you can just kind of jump in at any point, really.
Yeah.
And you get what's going on.
One of the things I admire about it is that it's definitively a continuation.
Yeah.
It's season 6 or whatever season it's meant to be.
Yeah.
It's just the next season. Like, there hasn't been a break with minor cosmetic changes. Like, they've definitely tried to preserve the style of the original.
Yeah, the animation in the show is deceptively good.
Yeah,
it's emulating the animation that came before to the point where if you look at it, you go, oh, it just looks like the original show.
Yeah.
And then you see the original show.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh no, this is way better.
Way better, but in the same lineage.
Yeah. Which is a sign of great animation where it's able to present something in a way that you remember it.
Yeah.
But in a way that's better than the actual thing you're remembering.
Well, I think comic book things are silly, aren't they?
Yeah.
Most of the time, naturally, inherently silly. And one of the things I like about this show is the largeness of the characterizations.
Okay.
That they're very different from each other. They have distinct voices, unique personalities, unique dialogue.
Yeah.
Wolverine doesn't sound like anybody else.
No.
They speak in their own way, in the way that comic book characters do. I'm not really invested in the story of it. Like, I will continue to watch it, but I don't care much.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not into it in that way. And I don't see myself diving into the backlog, but it's fun and it's smart. And yes, it's the best thing Marvel has done in a while.
Yeah, the dialogue is a step above what I was expecting from the show.
No, it is, yeah. And yeah, it takes itself seriously, which, in a good way.
Yeah.
Not too seriously, but it's not constantly ridiculing itself and kind of poking fun at itself and being meta and all these different things. It's taken the story and the world very seriously.
Yeah.
If pushed too far, that does risk goofiness. And like I said, I can't say that I take it particularly seriously, but it's a refreshing antidote to the self-satisfied self-referentiality of the MCU.
Yes.
Yes, and I would recommend it.
Absolutely, yeah. Although everyone's probably already seen it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I think that's it for the Rex.
Oh, okay.
So let's do the Rex.
Oh, okay.
A Man in Full.
Yeah, I think once
I get
again,
to relax now.
once again, this is all on me, isn't it? Yes, A Man in Full. This almost didn't make any list for me.
Okay.
Despite its propensity to be boisterous, it was mostly just white noise for me.
Right.
But by the end of it, I found myself with precisely 2 notes.
Okay.
And they are thus.
Yeah.
First one. At face value, it seemed like this was going to be a thinly veiled criticism of Trump.
Yeah.
that was commissioned in the wake of Succession's success.
Yes.
And is fortunately timed to come out around the time where it's become clear that Trump is going to be the next challenger for the presidency. In reality, it's like, I'm sure Succession did have something to do with this being made, but this is more of a criticism of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Really. Jeff Daniels is this rich, influential alpha male who's the CEO of this massive corporation. Kaylee Cuoco's husband, Tom Pempy, feeble man on the rise as he tries to emulate Jeff Daniels at his height. And then the two of them end up meeting in the middle. And then just for good measure, they've put Bill Camp in the show, who shouts at everyone.
Okay, well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, because of course he did. Yeah. However, there's another plot that's kind of running alongside everything, where there's John Michael Hill gets arrested for punching a police officer that was in the process of arresting him, but was like police brutality, basically. And he ends up getting sentenced harshly by the judge as a result of his crime. Other than the fact that his lawyer and his wife also work for Jeff Daniels, the character, Charlie Croker, the character, there's no connection between these two stories. They're completely disconnected from each other. The events from one have no influence over the events of the other. The only real crossover is occasionally Jeff Daniels will go, "Oh, it's fine, we'll get this sorted." But it's not like this guy going to prison influences what's that? And thematically, they don't feel like they belong together either.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, because the Jeff Daniels stuff is very much about toxic masculinity and just men in general.
We should clarify. I know it's a wreck. We one of the things that was pointed out about The Iron Claw was that it's a film about honest-to-God toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Is that what this is? Well, like a genuine critique or woke bullshit?
No, it's a critique about a specific type of masculinity. Yeah, Jeff Daniels he's going into bankruptcy and he's aging. And so he's fighting against both of those, basically. Despite the fact that he's now nearly $1 billion in debt, he's conducting himself as though he isn't. And he wants like surgery on his knee that's like experimental because he doesn't want to be in this aging body.
What's toxic masculinity about that?
Just like,
I think everyone would fight bankruptcy, certainly, and most people fight aging.
Well, just the fact that he's not taking these things seriously. It's all about, oh no, I'm the strong. I can't be seen to be weak. I think that's what's toxic about it. It's like he refuses to appear weak, and so he's taking these drastic measures to not be weak. Yeah, so there's that aspect to it. Whereas the police brutality storyline feels like it's leaning more towards race.
Of course.
Yeah, because it's a black guy that gets unfairly roughed up by a white cop and then unfairly sentenced by a white judge. A white judge that brings up crime statistics and openly says that he's making an example of him. And it just feels like the current cultural narrative is that the police are unfairly racist towards the black community.
As opposed to fairly racist.
As opposed to fairly racist, yes. And so if the show wasn't leaning into that, or if the show was telling a different narrative, it needed to make a point of that. And I don't feel like it makes enough of a point of that. Like, I did read this as a commentary on race, in which case, what's this commentary on race doing in this show about masculinity?
Well, race is in everything. That's
I know
one
race
thing.
is in everything.
No, I mean, like, it needn't have any connection. Like, whatever the show is, it will kind of end up dealing with race in one way or another. To me, again, not having seen it, not a thematic overlap, a philosophical overlap. Which is, it's the worldview of the people making it that's the consistent thread. Which is, we're critiquing these elements of society, even if they have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, but the consequence of it for me was that I felt like I was watching two different shows.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a very bad thing. But it's two nodes on the woke, continuum.
Yeah, and so that was a problem for me, is that it's only a 6-episode miniseries, and yet it felt like I was watching two shows at the same time. Yeah,
you've really got to justify a miniseries.
Yeah.
You have to have a good reason for a miniseries. A story that can be told in that much time. There's enough of a story that it's not stretching.
Yeah.
But also you don't want it in a way to be too fertile.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff to be done here.
Yeah.
I didn't watch this.
No.
Right?
Nor should you.
No, will I. I think I saw a trailer for it. It was just 6 episodes of this. It just seems completely non-vital.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just it's a film, really.
Yeah.
That was my sense of it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the first episode, when Jeff Daniels and Kaylee Cuoco's husband, when they meet, like, outside of the bankruptcy discussions and everything like that, it has this air of, like, oh, this is going to be the show, is these two titans or this one Titan and this one nobody that aspires to become a Titan coming to blows.
Right.
I was just sitting there thinking, but there's only 5 more episodes of this.
Yeah, it's not billions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it deserves that kind of prestige that it's trying to drape itself in.
That kind of setup, which is premised about these two Titans over the course of a series.
Yeah.
It's like, no, if it's 5 episodes, you don't have the luxury of foreboding all that much.
Yeah, I remember when I was in university, a lecturer said to me once when we were we had to make a short film, and he said, when you're making a feature film, your focus is on character and plot. Okay. When you're making a short film, your focus is on theme.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough time to tell a story, and there's not enough time to come up with characters.
Yes.
So it has to have a point.
Yes.
It's a mood, or it's a theme, or it's something.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe that's kind of true of the miniseries as well. Like, if you're going to do a show that's going to be about something, you do a show.
No. But it can be about something, but you can't waste an episode kind of setting up the character, setting up. I mean, that was one of the more common failings, I would say, and something that we fall into in the past in trying to write something is, so this just sets up the characters. Like, well, why are you wasting my... Just do stuff. Yeah. And that the characters will come through in that... Yeah. Through doing that. It sort of aligns with one's inherent sense of a narrative trajectory, which is, well, first we got to set the characters up. And that's like, we do all that before we start the story. Not, the wisdom really is both happen at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like in university, that when you were doing TV shows and stuff, the most common thing was, the first episode just sets up the characters. Like, well, nothing happens in the first episode. Yeah. You're going to waste like an hour of
That's the
time.
Episode where everyone decides if they're going to watch it.
Exactly.
The thing should happen in the first episode.
I think Jesse Armstrong, to go back to the Succession theme, is, he said, with a sitcom, start with your 3rd episode. Yeah. The characters are already, they've been doing their thing. Yeah. We can just drop into their lives and it'll feel lived in already. Yeah. And you'll find out you don't need all that setup. Just start the story.
So that's point 1. Point 2 is its fucking ridiculous ending. Yeah. So all of the courtroom stuff, that gets resolved halfway through the last episode. It just ends. Like I said, no consequence on the actual ending of the show. The actual ending of the show, Jeff Daniels, who is now at his lowest point, walks in on his ex-wife being fucked by Tom Pelphrey, right, who is at his highest point now. She runs out of the room, furious, going to call the police on Jeff Daniels. He locks the door to the bedroom, and they engage in their kind of final confrontation, in which he mocks him, and he punctuates his mockery by removing the towel that is covering his naked body to show his large, erect penis. Right. Which, they cut to a wide shot. It's there. You see it. They're not hiding it. It's
I don't know what the rules are for stuff like that.
Well, I didn't think it was allowed.
No, I didn't think it was allowed.
I thought it was heavily discouraged.
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah.
Outside of pornography, I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe kind of... in films like We Are the Flash, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, actually,
but no one's paying attention to those kind of things, are they?
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, they're very much under the radar. Yeah. And they're meant to shock you and everything. This feels like just a pretty straightforward, dramatic miniseries.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, right, yeah.
So already it's like, shock value ending. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then, so Jeff Daniels starts to strangle him. And while he's strangling him to death, Jeff Daniels' arm locks up. Yeah. And he has a heart attack, and they both die. Right, and it just ends. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, it sounds like a short film. It sounds like a music video. It sounds like... I'll tell you... I'll do it quickly for you. Okay. 2 different men, one a titan of commerce. I can give you that in one shot, like anybody could. Yeah. Right? And this other bloke that's aspiring to be him. I can give you that in 1, maybe 2 shots. Who works for the bank that is collecting on his debts. Okay, maybe... That's how they kind of start. Maybe not 1 shot, but a couple, right? And then you see them going about their lives being all macho and bullshit, whatever. And then, one ends up sleeping with the other's wife and he kills him. And the point is, toxic masculinity is bad and will kill you. Right? That is a music video. Yeah. That's a short... I can picture the music video. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a 6-hour miniseries. No, certainly not. Okay, well, I won't watch it. Don't. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Mammoth. Oh, it's another one of mine. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. One could argue that Mammoth is a sort of spiritual antipode to Life on Mars, which you're familiar with. Mm-hmm. I don't know if people are broadly familiar with Life on Mars. I assume they are. Yeah. In the UK. Because instead of being a show about a guy who's involved in a car accident in the modern day and wakes up in the 70s, Mammoth is a show about a guy who gets involved in a skiing accident in the 70s and wakes up in the modern day.
Right.
So instead of a modern guy in the 70s, it's a guy from the 70s in the modern day. Like, lifted from the 70s and put in the modern day. All of his friends are now old. His daughter is now grown up. He has a grandkid. And all of the sensibilities that he, like, had in the 70s, things that wouldn't fly in the modern day, he still has those deeply ingrained within him.
Right.
It's a pretty, like, solid premise.
A boring, cliched one, but yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that I don't know how many times.
I know, but just as, like, an elevator pitch for a sitcom.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason it's been done so many times.
Yeah.
It's because, there's some fertility in it.
Yeah. Oh, and another way in which it's an antipode to Life on Mars is Life on Mars was good and this isn't. Just to punctuate that. A pilot episode was commissioned for this back in 2021. The BBC ran like a pilot scheme.
Yeah, they do that all the time.
Yeah, and they commissioned they did the pilots for this, and they commissioned the remaining season, which is now out.
Yeah.
All 3 episodes of it.
I thought it was 4.
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 episodes and the pilot, I think. Right. It's basically the first episode anyway, as far as I know. I'm not surprised that it got made because there's a lot of comedic potential to be mined from its premise. Like you said, there's a reason why it's been done a few times before. But 3 20-minute episodes, it's not even a feature film. You need to be skilled to mine enough comedic potential from that premise in as short amount of time as you've got.
Yeah.
And it's skill that I don't feel like the guy that did this has.
No. I mean, I prefer... the shorter something is, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go.
But that's not a thing you do in 3 episodes. That's like an American sitcom, a 22-episode season. That's the show.
Yeah.
Guy from the 70s wakes up now. That's like 100-episode syndication kind of...
Yeah.
Not 320. What's the point?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, just do a film.
Talk about not feeling vital.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it all came out at once as well. So,
right.
Yeah, literally like an hour and you watch the whole thing and it's like, okay, I'll go do something else now.
Do you think it'll be recommissioned?
I've no idea, because everywhere that I've seen it promoted, it says Mammoth Season 1.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that, like
they'll do that whether it's been recommissioned or not.
Yeah, you could do more.
Yeah.
But I don't even think there's a Rotten Tomatoes page for this.
No, it's a very obscure show.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think the comedian has been on Would I Lie to You?
Yeah, well, well, I was going to bring him up as well. Yeah, because, I mean, this is a vehicle to promote him. Yeah. 100%. And
did he write it?
Yeah, he wrote it. Yeah. He's performing in it. It doesn't hide that it's a vehicle to promote him. He is the only source of comedy in that show, and that's not me saying that he's the only funny thing about it.
No, he's deliberately the only intent.
Yeah, that's me saying that all of the stuff in the show that is designed to be funny is his doing. The characters doing.
Yeah. Everyone else is straight.
Pretty much, yeah. The other characters don't have traits or personalities so much as they have a list of characteristics for him to make fun of or exploit to comedic effect.
Okay.
Most of his behaviour and actions would not only be completely unacceptable in the real world, but it feels like they're actions that any good show would then go on to punish him for, either for comedic effect or for dramatic resolution.
Give me an example.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Give me an example.
Oh, give me an example. Yeah. Well, I was going to say examples range from like milder examples from him hitting on the hot mums at parents' evening, and then you've got more extreme examples like.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing. Okay, a sitcom would do that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. He just hits on the mums, and then he just hits on the mums.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying anything has, but I mean, like, he doesn't need to be punished for that, right?
No, but
there's something funny needs to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you've got more extreme examples like him running over his grandson with a car. And him putting up flyers around the town, inviting strange men to impregnate his lesbian boss.
Is he ever the butt of the joke?
No.
Okay, so that's interesting.
There are moments where, like, he needs to learn a lesson, because it's like, oh, the way that I've gone about this isn't working. I should probably, like, change my tact. But at the end of the day, like, he either gets forgiven or the characters just write it off. Like that lesbian boss, when she figures out what he's done, she like confronts him, and he misinterprets that as her saying that she wants him to do that to her. And so he says, all right, I'll do that. And her response to that is, let's just never speak of this again. Right. Okay. And that's the big punchline.
He's a youngish guy, right?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, how old is he, roughly?
I don't know. He looks like he's in his 40s.
Yeah, okay. Youngish, as in... It sounds like the kind of premise that would be made, if he's not the butt of the joke, by a much older comedian in his 70s or 80s that was dealing with all this woke shit. No. Yeah. And there are some things like that. Not many of them are very good. Yeah. But yeah, they're the ones kind of mocking the new sensibilities and that sort of thing. Yeah. And that's all well, as you know, I'm very happy with that. But it can't just be that. It just... Yeah, it's a vanity project where the lead comedian's never about the joke. Like you said, he has some lessons to learn, but just gets to make fun of other people. It's just, it's not good enough, really.
No, it's not. Yeah, it feels like the show kind of knows, like when people point out that he's in the wrong, the response is typically is like, yeah, but he's all right, really.
Yeah.
That's the show's kind of attitude towards him. It's broadly uncritical of him in the way that any vanity project with a lead is written and performed by the same person is. I mean, there's an example. There's a review we'll come to later where it's kind of the inverse of this. But like, when it's done badly,
that's the thing. Vanity projects, it is half and half.
Yeah.
Vanity project, it would imply that it's auto-hagiographic.
Yeah.
But I think more often than, I don't know, maybe it is half and half. It's the other thing, which is a vehicle where I get to play this shit, or this person who's really suffering.
Yeah.
And it's because the vanity is about showing off their acting and their writing. And it's not about necessarily portraying themselves as a good thing. It's sometimes to show how humble they are. Or,
maybe that I didn't phrase it in the best way.
No,
I think the point that I was getting across was that only a show where the lead is written and
it's on the
performed by the same
It's the first
guy.
type of vanity project, which is I want to make myself look awesome and funny.
Yeah.
So what's the show's worldview? Is it that he is an antiquated sexist pig, or is it that things now are a bit silly and he's an antidote to that?
Mostly the former.
Yeah, I would think so.
But at the same time, the show likes
But it doesn't have enough teeth to really be critical of him.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, he's outdated and he's a bit of a piece of shit, but he means well.
Okay, yeah. Sort of typical sitcom-y sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I won't watch it.
No.
The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Oh.
You haven't seen this.
No, this one's on you.
This one's on me. Henry Cavill, who's the lead, was okay in that Mission Impossible that he was in. Otherwise, he's never done anything good.
Oh.
Give me something that he's been good in.
People would point to Man of Steel, I think.
That's not good.
Okay. No, but he was good in it.
I
think is the point. Okay, all right. Okay.
That's silly.
What about The Witcher? People seem to like him in The Witcher.
Shit. All of that shit.
Oh, okay.
It's for people like you, that is.
No. Don't be like
it's for
that.
your Dungeons and Dragons lot.
Don't be like that. I still have street cred. Don't be like that.
I'm not a fan of The Witcher, but this film, it's basically a pound shop in Glorious Bastards, or put another way, Guy Ritchie's Inglourious Bastards. Yeah, I put it in the same camp as Argyle. He and Matthew Vaughn, and I talked about this with the Argyle review, they've cornered the market with this type of film, which is slickly made-ish, but samey and forgettable, and all with a sense that they just exist. Nobody really made them. Not seeing the filmmaking can sometimes be a plus, often be a plus. Here, it just feels indicative of the churn of the production line. Okay. Just more film.
Right. Well, we've had a lot of Guy Ritchie stuff recently, right?
That's what I mean. Yeah. There's no kind of vision to it, or... with Lock, Stock and Snatch, I'm not a big fan of them, but they at least had a style to them. There was, that's a Guy Ritchie thing. That's kind of gone now.
Okay.
They also, these films, these Vaughn Ritchie joints, they exist in this milieu of Sam's Lexicorner.
Samuel. Words. Phrases. Sam's Lexicorner.
Gent Bro.
Okay.
I'm coining the term Gent Bro. We're familiar with Tech Bros, obviously, and we've talked about Film Bros. I don't think on the podcast, but we talked about what a Film Bro is. Yeah, this is Gent Bro. Ostensible sophisticates with a penchant for cigars and bespoke fashion, but they're also ripped.
Okay.
They're eaten educated, but they can bench press 450.
Right.
Craig's Bond kind of falls into this category, but he's sometimes surrounded by a good film. Of course, these films are all scions of Bond, and that's an irony considering the Ian Fleming connection to this film, which is he is a character in the film, and the events of the film inspire him to create James Bond.
Okay.
But this film is kind of, it exists in the shadow of Bond, so it's interesting kind of retrospective ripping off sort of thing. But it's rubbish.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not worth anyone's time.
Samuel. Words. Phrases. Sam's Lexicorner.
Red Eye.
Richard Armitage plays a doctor from the UK who, upon returning home from Beijing, is immediately detained and deported on account of the fact that he killed the daughter of a Chinese general in a car accident.
Okay.
His pleas of innocence fall on deaf ears, and his deportation is granted and expedited due to pressure from the Chinese government, who plan to back out of negotiations to build nuclear power plants in the UK.
Okay.
As such, Jing Lushi, a cop who doesn't play by the book, and a former Chinese citizen who really, really doesn't want to go back to China, is made to accompany him on his flight back to China.
Okay.
When on said flight, when other doctors who were asked to fly back on that flight to testify against him in China start dying, there'd be a conspiracy that starts to afoot. I did enjoy it. I don't really know what to say.
Okay.
It's that's the thing. It's one of those shows where it's so keen to explain and then re-explain itself. You just treat it as a podcast. You don't have to look at the screen once, which is just as well, given that these are board church visuals that we're dealing with here. It's not an interesting. It's not an interesting show to look at. Obviously, it's set on a plane.
Yeah,
and then you've just got like the setting. I guess like some of the locations are interesting. But the cinematography is not.
Well, it's interesting because board church, it doesn't have to be, but it would typically imply, a beach that's grey. That's the board, and, the moors. And
yeah, but I mean, the thing that makes it board church for me is that in that example, which is the example which led you to coin that phrase, they are visually interesting locations that have been made dull by bad cinematography.
Yeah.
And it's the same problem here. A plane is an interesting location. Some of like the locations in London that they end up with, there are interesting locations like Heathrow Airport and stuff like that. But it's boring to look at them.
Yeah.
So yeah, board church is definitely the territory we're in.
Okay, yeah.
You can just listen to it and treat it as a podcast. Because like at every opportunity, the show is going, so this character is dead, but that doesn't make sense because if the Chinese government did this, then that goes against their plan.
So it's spoon feeding.
Yeah.
Okay.
At every possible opportunity. Because when it does reveal its final twist, it really, really wants you to know that it's really, really clever. That's what it is.
I think this was presaged in our ISS review, where I said nations will no longer be the villains in shows. If any, it will be. We didn't explicitly go into this because I knew you were going to be reviewing this.
Yeah.
America or the UK, a Western country.
Well, that's what it is. Because it starts out, you think it's China. They're bringing these people back to China, but they're killing them off on the flight, so for some reason.
Yeah.
And then there's evidence to suggest, it's actually Britain that are doing this, presumably so they can't go to China.
Yeah.
Then it ends up becoming China again, because it turns out the air marshal is involved and he looks Chinese, but it turns out he's actually American. Yeah. And Leslie Sharp, who works for the UK government in this, she was sleeping with a CIA agent. And she
gets around that Leslie Sharp.
Yeah.
When she's shagging a bit on the side in the Full Monty.
She was cheating on her husband. Yeah.
Which completely wrecks.
Funnily enough, given the segment. That CIA agent, it turns out that he's leading a rogue contingent who are doing an off-the-books operation. To basically sabotage the Chinese UK nuclear deal.
I have a question.
Go on.
Are there any on-the-books operations? Because I think we watched The Good Wife, and what's the thing that Judge says? I think Will says, this is a gross miscarriage of justice. And she says, are there any mere miscarriages of justice? I feel like whenever you see something in a film, I know that because it's meant to be the more interesting thing, obviously. Yeah. But it's always an off-the-books operation. I'd like to see what operations are on the books. It's like, the Office Christmas party. We have that on the books. Cheryl on accounts deals with that, but everything else is off the books. Yeah. Enough with the off-the-books operations. It's just, Okay, so shit.
Yeah, shit. I don't recommend it. I have nothing to say about it, really. You told me to put it on here.
Well, yeah,
it's your fault.
Well, I feel like we had a conversation.
We did have a conversation.
Where it was
back when I remembered the plot. I had to write it down. Okay. Because I realised, I remember nothing about it. Okay. And it's 6 episodes long again. Yeah. And every episode it's like, it ends on a big twist, and but it makes no sense. But it kind of does. Yeah. And as you say, it just ended up being America because they're the only people that are allowed to be the bad guys anymore, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, it was easy.
It's easy.
Yeah. Okay. Let us plunge into reviewdom.
Lettuce.
What?
Lettuce.
No, Baby Reindeer.
I don't like this.
Baby Reindeer.
Baby Reindeer.
Okay, well, you've seen it, is the first note. Not just you, everyone listening.
Oh, right, okay. I thought you meant, that's how, I managed to convince Jordan to watch this.
We don't have listeners, but the list of the listener that we have... Actually, he probably hasn't seen it. But anyone who has listened to this, you've seen it. Let's face it.
Okay.
Everyone has seen it.
Yeah.
It's massive. these notes that I have for it were written the day it came out.
Okay.
I just sat down, I watched it, and made notes, having no idea of how popular it would become.
Yeah, what it was
the
to become.
consequences.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's reflected in the notes, but I'm just giving that as a warning.
Okay. I'm sure it'll come up naturally anyway.
Yeah, okay. So Baby Reindeer, it's basically it's based on a true story. So they say.
No, it is a true story.
No, it is.
Apparently.
You're right. It's a true story. Richard Gadd, Donnie in the show, right?
Yeah.
Donnie Dunn?
Yeah.
Donnie Dunn. He is stalked by this middle-aged woman called Martha, who kind of turns his life into a living hell.
Yeah.
It also deals with his relationship with a producer in the film TV industry. I mean, we'll say spoilers straight away. It just makes life easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he is raped by this man. He's drugged and raped by this man.
Yeah. And that's the reason we've kind of had to put the spoilers so early, is that the show doesn't open with this.
No, it's about his relationship with this woman who's stalking him.
Yeah.
And then we have an episode that shows the history.
Yeah, about halfway through. It's like, right, you've seen all of this stuff. You've seen all of my strange, bizarre reactions to what's happening.
Yeah.
Now here's the context.
Right. I'm very torn on this series.
Okay.
Very torn. In toto, as an artwork, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
As a self-contained apparatus, I think it's good.
Yeah.
I know he's a comedian, Richard Gadd, and a character as well, obviously. And I know the thinking is that the show would be completely unpalatable without some humour. But I think a lot of it is inappropriate, the humour in it.
Okay.
I'm not in bad taste. I'm all for that. Just misplaced.
Okay.
I think he's a better dramatist than a comic, based on the evidence here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's incredibly uncomfortable.
Well, I was going to say, it kind of needed humour to cut through that. Right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that was the thinking, obviously. But I just think as a result, it's just no place here.
Okay.
But that's my opinion. Jessica Gunning, who plays Martha the Stalker, provokes the awkwardness marvellously. She's incredibly uncomfortable. And as gratingly annoying as she is, the humanity does shine through now and again.
Yeah.
Besides her attraction to him, the most relatable and likable character is the trans woman, his girlfriend. As I say, besides the fact that she likes Richard Gadd. So obviously, you get in my...
okay.
Played by, I think, Nava Mao is her name.
Richard Gadd is played by...
No, the trans woman is played by Nava Mao. I really liked his father too, Welshman, Mark Lewis-Jones.
Yeah, sort of... I was going to say unsung hero of the show, but I think everyone has said they really like the father.
Yeah.
Because he's not in it much. You don't see him much.
No, but he provides a pivotal emotional narrative point.
Yeah.
The whole thing is an exercise in inducing anxiety. And yes, the fourth episode in particular comes out of fucking nowhere. Let's consider Richard Gadd as a character. Okay? I don't know the man. As a character, Donnie Dunn. My feelings toward him were very much push and pull. So, for instance, when Martha gropes him and he freezes, I read that as him kind of not acquiescing, but surrendering to touch. Because we get at this point in the series, it's very lonely. And, In the next episode, I discovered that I was meant to view that as a sexual assault that paralysed him. Okay. I don't want to get into sexual politics or anything, and in certain circles, I know I'd catch a whirlwind of shit, but it's just different, isn't it? This dynamic. Okay. This is my in-time linear thinking. Okay. Right? Just push the woman away. That was my initial reaction.
Well, I did think that, because it happens next to a canal.
A canal, yeah.
And I thought she was going in the canal. I really did. I was surprised that she didn't. Yeah. Then you get the fourth episode, and it's put into context. His reaction's put into context. Yes. And I shifted somewhat. But at the beginning of that fourth episode, when it seemed like it was going to be a fairly run-of-the-mill flashback episode, it became clear to me that Donnie wasn't the interesting thing about the show for me. It was Martha. Okay. And then the episode happens. Now, I maintain that I think Martha is much more watchable and interesting than Donnie. Well, she's kind of the Joker in this story, isn't she?
Well, she's the villain.
Yeah,
so to speak.
if this was the Dark Knight, she'd be the Joker. Yeah, she's the one that you're kind of waiting to see again.
Exactly. Yeah, she has charisma on screen. Yeah. Now, some thoughts about Gadd, the character, Donnie. Okay. I stress. Firstly, if that was his stand-up, no wonder he was failing. And I'm talking about the scenes where he starts going over well.
Yeah, I will say that. I didn't really... I mean, that's the thing. If you don't get a certain sense of humour, to you, there's not going to be any difference between when it's going well and when it's not going well. But I couldn't tell the difference between the jokes that people received well and the ones that people received poorly.
It's an important moment in the show because the whole idea is... Martha's in the audience and their interplay, their banter is kind of what wins people over to him. Thus instilling within him that, oh, maybe she's not all bad, and it kind of it adds a level of toxicity to that relationship. Yeah, he needed to actually be funny, and I just didn't find him funny at all.
But I mean, that's kind of... Because again, this is a true story. So he started with that in that place.
Yeah.
And then he ended up writing and making Baby Reindeer.
Yeah.
So he obviously recognised in himself that was bad comedy because he's taken this other direction now.
I don't know. Like I said, in the world of the show, it's meant to be funny and going well for him.
Yeah. And again, in the world of the show, part of his big monologue in episode 6 is that he recognises the comedy is shit.
Right. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. He's sometimes surrounded by a grotesque array of characters in whose presence he ironically serves as the straight man, rolling our eyes for us. At other times, I found him an unbearable wanker, throwing around words like heteronormative. I found him progressively unlikable up until the big turn in episode 4. I'm not saying that changed everything for me, but it does, it changes some things. I understand that very British anxiety about being polite, but some of the things he does, you think the boy has nobody to blame but himself.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the relationship. And I think the intended relationship you have to that character.
Yeah.
Because I think he himself in the show, this is why it's so awkward to talk about it.
I know.
You don't. Right. It's not clear when you're talking about Richard Gannon when you're talking about the character.
Well, you also alluded to this earlier.
Yeah.
About vanity projects. And this is the latter where
yeah,
maybe it's too much on the look how shit I am.
Well, that's the thing. The first episode, I liked the approach that he was taking because I took it... The way I interpreted it was, he is not shying away from being critical of himself.
Which is great.
And that's great.
Yeah.
Is that it's not just a woe is me narrative.
Mm-hmm.
He's acknowledging his flaws. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of delivering them in a way where it's dramatically interesting.
Yes.
So the audience benefits from him reliving his trauma on the screen. By the time it gets to the end of the show, some of the things that he says and does, that kind of self-criticism starts to feel indulgent.
Well, hyper-criticism is just another form of narcissism.
Yeah.
Self-loathing is a form of narcissism. It's self-obsession, right? Self-regard. Excessive self-regard. Yeah, so you see the underbelly of all this stuff, and you don't really know what to think about him. Because Martha is obviously a nutter.
Yeah.
But Richard's a pretty unusual bloke himself, I gotta say.
Yes.
When he started wanking over her, I tapped out empathy-wise.
Okay.
That was no. I know you meant, it's psychologically interesting and nuanced, but just as do I like this guy? Not really.
Okay.
I feel bad about what happens to him. In episode 4, we see his his rape at the hands of this guy. Horrible. And
well, yeah.
A lot of, how brave to depict your own sexual...
Yeah.
Well, no one made him do it. No one put him through that.
Yeah.
He just decided to make a show about it. So I don't buy the brave bullshit. Like, there is bravery in the world, and there is artistic bravery sometimes. I will not call this brave. Okay. I hate this whole thing about, speaking about... No, you live in a culture where you're going to be celebrated for it. It's not brave to speak about it. It's just not. I know it's probably harder. God, you get shit for this as well. Harder for men to admit to being raped than women. I'm just very slow to use the word brave to describe it,
Yeah. If not brave, what word? Because even if he decided, I'm going to do this. Yeah. And I mean, this is also something that can be talked about. The guy that they cast to play that character. Oh, actually, no. I made the mistake as well.
You made the mistake, but we'll come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Okay, bookmark this.
That will make sense
mentally,
to you in about 5 minutes. Hopefully.
Yeah, it is something. It wouldn't have been easy for him. And
no, but you don't have to do it. It's art. You don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it, but I like the story needed it, I think.
Well, you don't have to do the whole thing is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's like, within the context of the thing, it's brave that he did that, but he wrote the series. Just don't make the series. If it's so hard.
Right.
Do you see, how is it brave? It's not that someone didn't point a gun at him and say, reenact your own sexual assault or I'll kill you. He created a drama in which he reenacted his own sexual assault. I'm sorry. It's obviously horrific I'll say it because I don't know, but I believe it. It's horrific if it happened to him, but it's not brave to depict it. What's brave about it? Maybe that's just my sensibility. Bravery is not a word that springs to mind.
Okay.
It's closer to the narcissism of self-indulgence.
Well, I mean...
look at me acting being raped.
I mean, it's... Okay. You're not happy with it. I can see.
No, I'm not unhappy with what he did in the depiction. I will not call it brave, and I don't like the idea that it's considered brave.
Okay.
Brave should be reserved for other things.
Such as?
Firefighting.
Farming.
Yeah. Like I said, no, there is artistic, and I'm not being that precious about it, there is artistic bravery, I just don't think this is it. When it's a vanity project about how awful you are and how awful your life has been. No. And, he did endear me to him in his confessional in episode 6, right? Where he displayed some genuine self-awareness. And the stuff with the parents did make me emotional. Of course, I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I think the core audience of the show will like him 99% of the time. I did not.
Okay.
I think that's the major distinction. Culturally, the people that lap this up are, oh, he's so amazing, so brave. And we've seen that reflected in reality, but we'll come to that as well. But it's okay that I didn't like him. That's fine. My complex response to him ended up being the show's dominant dimension for me.
Yeah.
That's what was most interesting, is I don't like you. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think the show has accounted for that possibility.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because he admits his faults at every available opportunity.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's complicated. It's a complicated
and
experience.
and that's the thing. Martha is portrayed as an out-and-out villain. Like, there are moments of humanity there. And there are moments where I genuinely liked Martha.
Yeah.
She says something in their first meeting, like, that Richard Gadd himself frames as, like, she said something that was, like, accidentally quite poetic and profound.
Yeah.
And then she says the line, and I kind of, like, agreed. I was like, oh, yeah, that's actually a really nice... Like, something about running away.
Don't you find that condescending, though?
How do you mean?
That he describes what this woman said as, like, accidentally poetic, like this fucking idiot. Like, from the mouths of babes. Like, the wisdom comes from the least.
I know.
I know, this is what makes it so complicated. It's apparently a true story.
Yeah.
He's playing himself in it, and he gets to tell the story of this woman that's a real woman that's out there in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, like, again, if 50% of it is... If 20% of it is true, she's not a good person, or did not behave in a good way towards him. But... I don't know, it just feels a bit like sneering, like, crediting her with this accidental poetry. It's like, ooh, who are you?
Well, that's the thing. Prior to that, she hadn't presented herself as someone that would be capable of
accidental poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think broadly, obviously, she is unsympathetic.
No, she is. Yeah, of course she is.
What changes in their dynamic is him.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes he is more sympathetic than her. Other times, he is less sympathetic than her. But the relationship the audience have with her basically never changes over the course of the show.
I would agree.
She's the kind of the constant through it.
Yeah.
I don't know what point this is supposed to reinforce.
Well, I was speaking about him being my feelings towards him, the vacillating...
Yeah. Oh, so I suppose I made the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the show. He's the thing that changes.
Yes. And that relationship that I had to him in the show contributed to its overall nature, which is that despite everything, it's grimly compelling.
Yeah.
It's staring at a pile-up. And not dissimilar to an acid trip. When it's over, you rediscover a gratitude for normality.
Yes.
Because I pretty much watched it in one sitting.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
okay.
This thing, so again, this was written when nobody had seen it. It's hard to know who to recommend it to. But there's clearly an audience for this, and that has been borne out.
Yeah.
There are many things that catapult something into the quote-unquote conversation, and virality has served it well, and it wasn't buried in the algorithm. Early on, I thought, if this pokes its head above the parapet, it has the potential to be the next I May Destroy You. And it does seem to be filling that space.
Yes.
Now, this show could have arrived without fanfare. It could have disappeared into complete obscurity. That hasn't happened. It's become very popular globally. Very successful. Richard Gadd and Jessica Gunning, their careers will now be catapulted.
Yeah.
And things have happened as a result of the show's popularity, which is basically... The Netflix who made it, they seem to have made very little effort to disguise the identity of the real Martha.
Okay, so this is my question.
Yeah.
Is it Netflix or is it Richard Gadd?
Well, obviously he wrote it.
Yeah.
But then, the intermediary didn't do their due diligence.
Yeah.
So, but he's to blame.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say.
He's to blame. They enabled it, though.
Yeah, is it a case where they enabled him, or is it a case where they kind of pushed for...
I don't know. I wouldn't know. That I highly doubt.
Okay.
But obviously, I think this comes from a one-man stage show, or two, I think.
Yes. No, I think it was one man.
No, one man, but I think two stage shows.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
sorry.
2 1-man.
Okay.
And, it's a more selective audience, the kind of people that would go and see that for one thing. but he has lifted certain messages that she sent him. They are just verbatim what she said. And so it has made it very easy for people online to find out who this woman is.
Yeah.
And now, of course, I'm not going to name her because I just don't want to add fuel to the fire, but she was on Piers Morgan and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she's been doxxed. People have threatened her life, all these kind of things.
She's basically become the next Carol Baskin.
Basically.
Yeah, she's sort of taking on a celebrity-dom of her own.
Because of how reviled she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think I saw a post saying that there was like a nightclub that had booked her for an appearance or something like that.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's
like Nasty Nick from Big Brother or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's kind of expressed her intention to sue Netflix for defamation, which they've kind of opened themselves up to. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, to kind of bring up the rest of entertainment, I think they sort of mentioned that by saying this is a true story, like even if they just said based on a true story, it would have made it a lot harder for her to sue them.
Yeah, well, I think
but he's kind of like from the off, he's kind of said, "Oh, this is based. This is what happened."
I don't know about defamation. I don't know what the things, but she can definitely sue them for being transparent enough that it was easy to find out who she was.
Yeah, and the consequences, of that. And also, as you pointed out, there are things that are depicted in the show that are not true.
Yeah, it's not a true story. And
she never went to jail, for example.
Yeah, like we're recording this, it'll probably be released like a couple of weeks after we've recorded it. But this story isn't over yet.
Yeah, it's still unfolding.
Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but what the end result of all this will be. But now she's a celebrity.
Yeah.
And he did that.
Yeah.
Richard Gere did that.
In a way, it's a weird, continuation of the story.
No, it is, yeah.
Because there are a couple of points in the show where she's basically out of his life. And because of things that he does, because of carelessness on his part, she becomes a part of his life again.
Yes.
And that's exactly what's happened.
Right.
But in real life now.
Yeah.
She is now a known figure in the culture.
Right. And, this is what you alluded to earlier, that they cast someone to play the rapist producer.
Yeah.
Now, people have been trying to uncover who that person really is.
Yeah.
And a producer that has previously produced Richard Gere was named as the person that did it.
Yeah.
And he bears a striking resemblance to the actor.
Yeah.
But it's not him.
It's not him.
It's not him. It's actually the wrong person.
Yeah.
So, and they have said, Richard Gere has said, it's not him. But then why would you cast someone? Here's the thing, this show, it's because it's popular. This could have completely gone unnoticed, right? Yeah. It's the kind of show that no one would have watched. This little gem, maybe, But no, it's massive. And so, there's all this response to it. But you should be thinking about, you would want it to be successful and massive, right?
Yeah.
So you have to consider the possibility then that, right, people might try and find out who these people are. They're going to look at producers that I've worked with. I won't cast someone that really looks like that producer. And this is what I mean, just the complete lack of care, really. But I think they probably did think, this will be this little British thing. It might get some critical love. No one's going to watch it.
Yeah.
Didn't turn out that way.
I mean, you kind of, in your own notes, you sort of suggested that it wasn't going to be a hit because you said you didn't know who to recommend it to.
Yeah, because who do you recommend something as grim as this to? But the reason that this build is it's a true story is because people love true stories.
Yeah.
Look, this really happened. That's why not the based on, because it's his truth, I suppose. But yes, there are things that happen in this, like you say, that didn't happen. The breakdown on stage didn't happen.
No.
Which is the kind of the climactic,
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because episode 4 is the big turning point. Because like you said, it kind of adds a whole new context to that character. It kind of changes your perception of what he's done up to that point. Mm-hmm. And again, initially, I thought it was it was nice that he did that he kind of allowed you to form an opinion of him.
Yeah.
And then gave you the context necessary to subvert that opinion. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, when you recommended the show to me, you warned me about episode 4. You didn't tell me what was going to happen.
Yeah.
You just said episode 4, watch out, basically.
Yeah.
And there's people in work who saw it before me that gave me basically the same warning again without spoilers. Mm-hmm. And then when episode 4 starts, I think it starts with a disclaimer where it says, this program contains, sexual violence or something. Mm-hmm. So I was like, right, he's going to get raped.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, they shouldn't have put a warning
No, they
there.
shouldn't have.
Oh, they shouldn't have?
No, trigger warnings just, they shouldn't be a thing.
No?
I'm not, that's not be my anti-woke insensitive self. It ruins art.
Well, that's the thing. It spoiled it for me without spoiling it. Because
Exactly.
I was waiting for the rape. And then when it happened, I was like, okay, I'm prepared for this.
I was waiting for I thought it would be her, Martha, raping him.
Okay.
Sexually assaulting him, however you want to define it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't think it would be some random guy who, up to that point in the show, we have no idea about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, you're expecting it. I was like, oh, Jesus. The thing is, you said like everyone at work watched it and said, watch out for episode 4.
Well, a couple of people.
A few people at work, yeah. Not because it's not good, but this show shouldn't be as popular as it is.
No?
Why? What is the average punter doing watching Baby Reindeer? This.
Well, they're watching it because everyone else is watching it. It's one of those bizarre social anomalies where it's only popular because it's popular.
How many episodes is it?
7.
7 episodes of this, like, really...
7 half-hour episodes.
7 half-hour episodes of this really specific, personal story.
Yeah.
That doesn't have appeal on its face. Nothing blows up. Nothing.
Yeah, no, if you premise this to someone, it's not an appealing show, broadly, I'd say.
It's a stage show or it's a book. It's not a Netflix TV series.
Yeah.
So its popularity is kind of inexplicable. So the fact that people at work were telling you about it is like, why have they seen it even?
Right.
And that's not me. I'm not being like a snob or anything. Like it's odd to me. It's a strange thing to me that it's as popular as it is. But yeah, the court case didn't happen. The trial didn't happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The point I was prepared for episode 4. I wasn't prepared for the monologue at the end of episode 6. Right. That same as you. I kind of hit the same emotional peaks as you. That monologue really got me. I thought that was a really great monologue. And his conversation with the father in episode 7, where the father reveals like what happened in his past.
That he was raped as well.
Yeah, because he grew up in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Strong emotional punches that landed for me. I don't know about what happened with the father, but it's unfortunate that monologue on stage never actually happened.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of take the wind out of it a little bit. It's like, oh, this was invented. It was still good.
Yeah, as a piece of drama.
Yeah, but it does kind of take the power out of it, knowing that this only exists in this...
Of course.
In this fictional context.
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose the main question that I have for you is everything that's happened since the show has come out has affected my opinion of the show. I'm assuming it's affected your opinion of the show as well. Is that right and is that fair?
It's affected my opinion of him.
Okay.
Not the show. The show is what it is.
Yeah.
But of course it's fair.
I mean, if you're ever going to revisit that show, it's going to be with the knowledge that of everything that came after.
Yeah.
That Martha, is a real person that we know about, is planning to sue them. Don't know like how much of a leg she has to stand on, whether they're kind of empty threats or whether she does actually have a case.
Oh, she's definitely got a leg to stand on. I mean, I don't like the woman if she's anything like the way she's depicted, but she does have, however this was resolved, her life shouldn't be threatened. People shouldn't be outside her house. Well, you did this to him. Yeah. Yeah, that's not justice, is it?
No.
That's revenge.
Yeah.
And just people, why don't you give a fuck? Yeah, it's horrible what she did, but what are you doing? All these Batmen out there, these vigilante... God, people are just bizarre to me. And again, the fact that it hasn't enough popularity, that it's enough people have seen it, the weirdos are threatening to kill her online and stuff like that. Richard Gadd has encouraged all this to stop, saying it wasn't the point of the show.
Don't believe that, do you?
I'm not buying it. No. I'm not saying it was, but I'm not buying. Of course, it was to shame the people. Not the real people, but to kind of tell my story. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be allowed. Of course you should. I would never argue against that as an artist, a budding artist. When we went to university, there was someone a year or 2 years below me that they had to do a showcase. And he wrote a play that was basically about how shit his family was.
Okay.
And invited his family to come see it.
Oh, right, okay.
And so it was an incredibly awkward experience for everyone. And it just felt like such a juvenile, like, now I have a platform and I'm gonna be vindicated to the world. And I think a lot of the inspiration for wanting to be a writer comes from when you're young, a sense that you weren't heard. Now it's your opportunity to, the world. But then you get to a certain age, and you go, yeah, Revenge of the Nerds wasn't actually the moral thing, right? It's satisfying, but that's not the mature thing to do.
Yeah.
And this show feels a little bit like that.
Okay.
Like it's not doing the mature thing.
Well, I was going to say, if he genuinely didn't expect the reaction... No. Not that it... I'm sure it's not like, he shouldn't have... he should have expected the show would be incredibly popular and people would seek out Martha. He should have at least considered that as a possibility. And if he didn't, that was incredibly careless of him.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways. I mean, it's a very complicated thing, this show, now. I think it'll win awards, but also there's a reasonable amount of controversy around it.
Yeah.
And a fair amount. But yeah, as a show, like I said, overall, I think it's a good, a very annoying thing at points, but a good thing. I don't think it was made with the greatest of intentions, and I don't trust Richard Gadd. I won't say I don't like him, I don't trust him.
Okay.
I don't trust his motivation. Yeah, that's all I got, really.
Okay, I guess it depends on wherever he goes from here now. Whatever his
Marvel.
next thing is going to be. He'll be directing the next... whatever the film.
That'll be interesting whether he's hoovered up as a writer-director or as an actor.
I'm trying to think, because like the cliched thing now is like, oh, if you're a black writer, you write for Black Panther. If you're a woman, you write for Captain Marvel. What would Richard Gadd write for?
Raped man.
Rape man.
No, raped man.
Raped man.
Raped man. Victim. Okay.
It's just for context, Sam did the superhero pose. This is said victim. Which is, unfortunately, kind of...
That's the show in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did it. Victim, but okay. It's a shame that can't be a title, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it for Baby Reindeer?
I mean, that's the thing. There's more, like, we could have conversations about individual scenes and, like, oh, what was your... like, the ending. Like, what was your interpretation of the ending? But I don't think that's the conversation that needs to be had about this show. I feel like we had that conversation.
I think we can mention the ending. I think there's something interesting there because... Well, explain the ending and what you think people are thinking about it.
Yeah, so the end of the show, he's kind of... The character has reconnected with the producer that raped him, and he has been given the opportunity...
Very quickly, I forgot to mention as well, Richard Osman, in that discussion on the Rest is Entertainment podcast, he said that people in the industry know who that producer is. Richard Gadd has told people who that is.
Which fucking baffles me. Because, like, that's the thing, I don't know if this guy is still working, but if he is, and people know who he is... I mean, this is just... it makes no sense. This is the Weinstein thing all over again.
Yeah, but...
like, people are just like, oh yeah, I knew that Weinstein raped. I didn't tell anyone. But it's also
just like, I know going to the police and everything, it's a fucking hassle and, you know, it's hard to prove a rape, especially this long after the fact and everything. Yeah. But it's like, oh no, I'm not going to dob him in. I'm going to create a drama. It's weird to me. Like, I don't know, I've never been raped. Touch wood.
Ooh.
But... well, just tell the police. I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but it baffles me as well.
Yeah, I don't know, because I can see somebody not wanting to come forward just because they don't want to relive that trauma.
Yeah, don't tell other people then. Don't tell everyone except the police.
But that's the thing, other people. It's just like, oh yeah, that guy raped me. That guy that's like, you know, changing people's lives and like creating jobs and all that kind of, and managing people, if indeed he is, because like I said, I think he could be retired for all I know, or he could have been silently cast out of the industry. But I don't know, I don't understand how someone can publicly say, oh yeah, we all know who that is, and that's the end of the matter.
Yeah, you deal with, if you're raped, you deal with it however you want, but there is an immorality in how you respond, which is they can and will do it to other people.
Yeah.
And you could have stopped them. That's the one thing. Like, I every sympathy for, like, it's your choice if you don't want to come forward, all that kind of thing. But with someone that does something like that is a predator. They don't do it once. Yes, the ending. Go on.
Yeah, so he's kind of approached the producer who has offered him a job, but he's kind of framed it as like, oh no, this is an actual job that you'll be paid for.
It'll be different than last time.
It won't be like last time. And also around this time, Richard Gadd's obsession with Martha has kind of been rekindled now that she's finally gone to jail for her crimes, which didn't actually happen, but okay.
Yes.
So he's listening to voicemails that she has left him, kind of remembering her fondly, because in that moment he needs someone to kind of be nice to him. So he's listening to a voicemail where she was nice. So he goes to a pub and he orders a drink, and the drink comes and he doesn't have any change. Now, the relationship with Martha began because she walked into a pub which he worked in. She couldn't afford a drink, so he gave her one on the house.
Yeah.
And that falsely signaled to her that he was interested in her.
She latched onto him.
And she latched onto him. He kind of, like, doesn't intentionally... He didn't intentionally not bring money, but he realises he doesn't have any money to pay for the drink. So he kind of apologises to the bartender. And the bartender just goes... because he sees that he's crying and he's upset, so he just goes, it's all right, mate, it's on the house.
Right.
And Richard Gadd kind of looks up at him and the show cuts to black. That's the end of the show. People have interpreted this ending in different ways. Some people have read that Richard Gadd is now going to stalk this guy like Martha stalked him.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is a strange interpretation.
That's a badly trained TV viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people have read it as it's the show's way of saying him and Martha are more alike than even he realised.
Right.
Like they're
there's
very...
an element of that,
Yeah. They're kind of, they're very similar in many ways. I think there's also been interpretations where people have said, that's the moment where Richard Gadd realizes it wasn't his fault. Because I think he's blamed himself throughout the show for giving her that drink. It's like, oh, I let this happen to me.
Right.
If I hadn't given her that drink, none of this would have happened. I think she glasses him at one point.
Yeah.
And she gets kicked out of the pub. And someone says, what's that all about? And he went, I gave her a drink.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's all my fault.
Yeah.
And people have said that, like, when the bartender did that to him as, like, a genuine act of kindness, that look that he gives him at the end is him realising it wasn't my fault.
Well, I don't remember it being a look of relief or anything. I remember it's, like, if anything, it's not the opposite, but it's a stark look. It's not, oh, okay. He just looks very, like, severely at the camera.
Yeah, I feel like it's supposed to be a deliberately ambiguous look.
Yeah, of course.
I think the ending is designed to, like, you take what you want.
Yeah. I actually, I don't think it's as rich as is being implied. Like, all those, whatever interpretation you have is on the table. It's obviously not that he's going to get and stalk the guy. It's not fucking a twist ending, dun dun dun. It's not that. It's just kind of well, it reminds you of how it started.
Yeah, there's that like impression of circularity.
That's it. It's just a neat punctuation where it comes full circle. I don't think it means much. I think it's just, how do I end this story? Or end it there? And yes, I can buy into it's saying that he and Martha are not that different. I can buy into that a bit. Him realising that he's not to blame. And the only reason I don't buy that is because of his expression.
Okay.
I think it's more like, it just reminds him, doesn't it? He goes like, oh shit.
But he was already in that mode. That's why he was crying, because he was listening to Martha's messages.
If that's what it's meant to be, I mean, it's not his fault that she's a nutter or anything. No, of course, the stalking is not his fault. It's a bit his fault. Not him giving her the free drink.
No, yeah.
Yeah, of course that wasn't, anyone would do that. And if that's meant to be him realising, oh, I'm not to blame, I would go, well, not when you gave her the drink. No, it's stuff you did afterwards.
No, yeah, that's the thing.
That's the blame.
Yeah, he made mistakes along the way that he shouldn't forgive himself for. But yeah, I think the idea is that, like, oh, this was going to happen. Okay, well, I inflamed the situation, but I didn't cause it.
If that's true, if that's the intention, that's a rationalization after the fact.
Okay.
He made it worse than it needed to be. I'm not saying it's his fault, but he made it worse than it needed to be. That's the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
So he's a bit to blame.
Okay.
He's a bit to blame for how bad it got.
Yeah.
Yes. Blocker, borrow, that's it. Over.
Okay.
So...
So broad, I guess recommendations are necessary, but...
Yeah. Well, I said, like, on the whole, I think it's a decent piece of art. But it's a complicated one, and one that annoyed me a lot. He annoyed me, and I don't trust him.
Yeah.
But as a piece of art that unconnected to the real world, it's perfectly decent.
Yeah.
And as would follow, will win every award.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, she absolutely will.
She deserves it.
Yeah,
she 100% deserves it.
She definitely does. Yeah, I'd say she is the highlight of it. I mean, yeah, for all of those comments saying, like, as you said earlier, like, oh, how brave it is that he put himself through that trauma again. I mean, maybe the show would have worked without her, but, I mean, she is going to be Martha for the rest of her life now.
That's the thing. Yeah, like, who knew how popular it's going to be, but you take a role, it's a good role, you take it. Like, if you're like Leonardo DiCaprio or something, you have the luxury of thinking, oh, maybe this role, I don't want to like people thinking of me this way. She's like, I've seen her in loads of things before, I knew who she was, she had Fortitude. But yeah, no, definitely, she is Martha going forward now.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if people can like her. Yeah. In other things, you know?
Yeah. Who's that guy? There's loads of examples of this, but wasn't there like a guy that was in Game of Thrones where...
Joffrey.
Yeah.
He's getting like... loathe him.
Yeah. And like another weird example of it in Extras, Barry from EastEnders.
Yes.
I mean, in the show, they call him Barry from EastEnders.
His character is Barry from EastEnders.
Yeah, his character is Barry from EastEnders. Yeah, that's Jessica Gunning now. She is Martha.
Martha, yeah. Season 1 of Fallout.
This was another show that came out.
Very good. Yeah. Okay, so based on the video game series, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mostly full in its aesthetic anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's an original story.
Yeah.
But the world is mostly inspired by Fallout 4. I prefer the aesthetic of Fallout 3, personally.
Okay.
But for longevity's sake, I understand that they might not want the world to be so dour. And I do really like the look of the show.
Yeah, I think it's probably the same attitude that they had when they were making Fury Road. Because I remember George Miller saying, there's two ways that we could have done this. realistically. We could make everything bright and colourful, or we could make everything black and white.
Yeah.
So because if you just kind of like do this weird middle ground, it looks ugly.
Yeah.
Which is something we've said multiple times with Board Church and Fool's Monochrome and all these terms have come up for it. And Fallout, they've gone in the colourful direction. And it's absolutely to the show's benefit.
100%.
Yeah.
It suits it, its tone, everything.
Yeah.
So I understand why they went for that. Although things like Vikings and Scandi Noir and Board Church things, they don't seem to be particularly hurt by that. The series owes a debt to the Watchmen miniseries,
Okay.
I would say. The Leftovers a little too, and when I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean they saw it and were inspired by it, but it's something that came after it, right? Yeah, to Damon Lindelof, really. When he wrote the open letter to the Watchmen fan base, one of the words he used to describe his take was electric. And I think that's a very fitting adjective for Fallout, with its blend of colour, humour, weirdness, pathos, and violence. Electric is the right word for it.
Yeah.
Violence in media is something to which I appear to have a different reaction than I used to.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm more sensitive to it, but when it's vacuous, I feel it more acutely than I used to. We mentioned it with Roadhouse. Even in something as stupid as that, a film very much catering to an appetite for bloody ass-kicking. When he ripped the guy's throat out, I just found myself rolling my eyes. I also saw the original RoboCop recently,
Okay.
which is famous for its over-the-top splatter. But the excessiveness in that is meant to be comical to some extent. But even so, I thought it unnecessary. I have nothing against cinematic gore or dialing the squibs up to 11, but if you handle that improperly, it could just feel empty.
Yeah.
All to say, it isn't the case here. It offered a good side-by-side with Roadhouse, actually. Here, it is extreme and goofy, but genuinely feels silly and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in terms of what's done in the show, there are decapitations, it's bloody.
Yeah.
But it's zany and it's funny almost, and
Yeah,
it's just fun.
Yeah, the show has just a good approach to not just the violence, but I think the world in general. I think that like going forward, because it feels like we've very much entered the age of video game adaptations now.
Yes.
They're more plentiful than ever before. But now that The Last of Us has come around, we've kind of got
good ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're starting to get good ones now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think The Last of Us will forever be remembered the same way that X-Men and Spider-Man are remembered
I would agree.
for superhero movies.
I would agree.
This was the first like really good one, and this is going to bring in the golden age of like there's going to be a load of good ones now.
Yes.
But I think Fallout was always going to be the better test for me.
Yeah.
Because The Last of Us, by design, is narrative heavy.
It's not hard to do a decent Last of Us adaptation.
Yeah,
it's just not.
Really, all you need to do is just decide what you're going to do with all the extended gameplay sequences between the story moments.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the story in the show is lifted almost directly from the game. Sometimes,
And of course, I'm not
shot.
there are moments of invention, like the whole Nick Offerman episode. And, and the pre-credits stuff. Yeah, good. But it's not. You have it's very tight narrative that propels forward very linearly. So you have to add stuff to that. You don't take anything away.
Yeah, but by the same token, like if you weren't interested in inventing and kind of bringing your own flavour to that story, you could have just adapted it and you would have been fine.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because it's so stripped back and linear.
Yeah.
All you can do is add stuff to it.
Yeah.
You don't have to triage and decide, this subplot doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
Whereas Fallout, it's a universe.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Because we haven't even premised the show. And
No.
You kind of don't need to, because much like the game, the premise of the show feels like an excuse just to get them out there in the world and in all of these different situations.
Pretty much. Not to say that the story is redundant.
No.
It's a good story.
Yeah, it's a good story, but that's the thing. They weren't adapting a story. They were adapting a universe.
Yes,
and
which is the way to go.
Yeah, it knows that that's what it was doing, and I really like the attitudes that it has towards the show's universe.
Yeah.
Because, like, a bad adaptation would take something from the source material that's really popular, and it would go, look, the thing from the source material, and you clap or you applaud or you go, oh my god, they referenced the thing.
Right.
Sonic. Might come to it later. But what Fallout has done is it's gone, right, this is a thing from the source material. How can we make this fit into the show? Either how can we make this fit comfortably into the narrative, or how can we make this thematically relevant?
Yeah.
The rad roach is the example that I kind of brought it before to you. Most people that play Fallout know what a rad roach is, but they end up using it as a metaphor for how life on the surface can change you. Now that she's spent all of her life in the vault, and now that she's above surface, yeah, like the cockroaches evolved and not necessarily in a way that was beneficial to them.
Yeah.
That's the risk that she is now faced with now that she's out here on the surface.
Yes.
It's like, oh, good, it's actually using the universe intelligently.
It's deepening the mythology. It's deepening the aesthetic. It's taking the aesthetic and then building story from it and into it.
Yeah.
And behind it. Lucy McLean is the lead character.
Yes.
Now, that's the name of John McClane's daughter, so that was a problem for me initially.
Okay.
Let's just get that out of the way. Ella Purnell is great.
Yeah.
She's funny, she's likeable. I love that sense of naive, polite innocence.
I like Ella.
And she ain't too taxing on the eye.
Yeah, I like Ella Purnell. I just hope that, because I haven't seen her in Yellow Jackets or any of the other stuff. I mean, she's fairly young. She hasn't had a big career yet.
No.
This is going to be her big break, I assume. I don't know how popular Yellow Jackets is.
Well, she is popular in it.
Okay.
Oh no, it's popular critically.
Okay.
I don't know how many people watch it, but yeah, she's kind of a breakout character in it.
Right, okay. I just kind of hope that she's not going to be Flanderized going forward. Like, now that she's played Lucy, she will forever play Lucy.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case.
I know we spoke about it with Martha, but that's a particularly potent example. It doesn't really happen anymore.
No?
The typecasting thing. Not really.
It happened with Giancarlo Esposito.
I think that's his fault, though.
Okay.
I mean, he chose those roles, right? I mean, I don't think there was a dearth of roles being offered to him.
Okay.
I think after he played Gus, he's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll do that. But yeah, it's rarer. It's rarer than it used to be. It's not like, oh, you're just a Western guy. No, we kind of let everyone do everything now. Walton Goggins is always brilliant.
Yeah. And what's nice is they haven't just put him in prosthetics and called it a day. He is playing a different character to Shane and to...
No.
Boyd.
Yeah.
I know Walton Goggins' career. I remember it. Yeah,
he's definitely one of those, like, kind of like Elizabeth Moss in a way. He's had a journey through television from the birth of prestige TV. Like, you got The Sopranos in 99, then The Shield in 02, so, like, very soon.
Yeah.
And he's ridden it out.
Yeah.
He's been there the whole time, you know what I mean? He's great in everything. Yeah. He's just a brilliant actor. I honestly couldn't pick between those two as the standout. I think they're both... And they're a fierce combination as well.
Yeah.
Aaron Moten isn't as compelling.
Well, he's an interesting one. Because, the show has 3 leads.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those 3, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got this kind of 4th contingent back in the vault.
Her brother is
kind of uncovering the conspiracy of Vault.
There are 3 leads. It's just interesting because I've been looking at awards predictions because we're approaching that time now.
Yeah.
And he's been put in the supporting actor category.
Oh, okay.
Whether that's actually borne out in the nominations,
maybe
he even is nominated.
Maybe they realised he was no competition for Walton Goggins and they just want to... They want him to get something as well. Yeah.
He's not bad. He's just not as compelling as the other 2.
No, which is interesting because I feel like he's the more ambiguous character.
Yeah.
Because Lucy McLean is just an out-and-out goodie. She's optimistic and she's bright and she wants good things and she's out to find her father and the world is trying to erode her.
Yeah.
And she refuses. Like, it gets her a little bit, but ultimately she refuses.
Yes.
And Walton Goggins he's a cynic and he's been alive all of this time and, you know, he knows the ways of the wasteland. And it's clear what function those 2 serve in the narrative. And then you've got Maximus, this 3rd guy.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like he's making things up on the spot sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's sort of the...
Not the actor, the actual character.
No, I know, yeah. It's sort of the Poe Dameron, Ray, Finn thing.
Yeah.
You've got the hero, you've got kind of the Han Solo, and then you've got, like, a love interest, like a bit of moral ambiguity too. That's what he is, really, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's very Finn and Ray.
Yeah.
It is very Finn and Ray.
Not least because
he's a black man and she's a white woman.
Yeah.
But it is, though. Just that relationship is very Finn and Ray. I mean, if you have 3 central characters, one will always be the least interesting. But there's a significant gulf, I would say, between top 2 and him.
Okay.
His facial expression is pretty consistent throughout. Okay. So every time it cuts to him inside the suit, it felt redundant because it's just the same. It was always the same.
Okay.
Sometimes he's downright unlikable. Yeah, I mean, he's fine. But I just, with such strong leads, it's a bit of a shame. Much of the dialogue is great. There's a lot of great dialogue in it. I really like the flashback stuff with Goggins, particularly toward the end of the season. There was definitely some of Portal's Wheatley in the brain bot that shows up in the finale.
Oh, yeah.
but I didn't mind.
Well, it fits within the tone of what the show was doing before that. Yeah.
It goes without saying that the look of the show is fantastic. They nail the retrofuturism thing.
The visual that I think I'm always going to remember from the first season. There's a lot of stuff that stands out in the first season.
Yeah.
But I think it was the moment where I knew the show had me, and that was when they're in the vault and the raiders are killing like the people in Vault 32, and the film in the projector starts to burn, and so the projected sky above them catches fire.
Yes.
And I was like, oh wow, okay, this show knows what it's doing.
I mean, I just love the design of the vault and just the massive door, and like I like stuff. I like tactile, big metallic
and
things.
It doesn't feel like a show that's straining under its own budget. Like they used it wisely.
They use it very well, yeah. And I think, going back to Lucy, there are moments in the show where, you know, the jadedness of the experience kind of push her towards badass bitch territory.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that happens going forward. But that's usually annoying, I find, the badass bitch thing, like in Damsel. She isn't that. This is more of a J.J. Abrams or a Joss Whedon heroine. Kind of badass lead female.
Yeah.
But that's likable and genuinely...
Well, I mean...
You know, it's not modern feminist bullshit. It's kind of... Yeah. She's just a tough... It's Buffy, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the show... it's allowing her to make mistakes, crucially, which I think is something that, like, in Damsel...
But that's the thing. It
doesn't happen that often.
There's a moment in the show where she kind of... she becomes on an equal level with Walton Goggins' character.
Yeah.
And then she marches off to do something like, oh, okay. And that could have been the moment that the show goes, right, she's bitch now.
Yeah.
But she never loses that, like, innocent, oh, why, you know, I just want to be polite and, you know, hello, sir, could I do... So I really like that. Not that women have to be like that. But you get my point. She didn't become an unbearable, shrieking harpy. She's just a tough girl kind of thing.
No, it's also like she started out as a unique character.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the modern space at the moment.
It's a great idea for the character.
Yeah.
It's not like... The usual thing would be something like Damsel, where she's the girl that doesn't toe the line.
Yeah.
She's the one that isn't buying into this vault bullshit.
Yeah. But she is. That's what's interesting about her.
Yeah, she is
playing
like
into it the most.
Yeah, I'm early on when they're making those jokes about, you know, how much she wants to fuck and everything. I was like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
You don't get characters like this as the lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, good for them.
It's like 15 minutes in, right, when they're like making jokes about like fucking their cousin.
Their cousin, yeah, exactly.
It's like, ooh, okay, go on. Go on, Fallout.
It's got something to it.
Yeah. And then Maximus meets the guy that's fucking the chickens.
Right.
And it's like, all right, this show's trying things out. I like it.
The soundtrack is well curated. The visual effects aren't distracting, except the bear, maybe. And it feels like they were used as sparsely as possible.
Yeah, I think, she like pets a deer at one point. And that's a real deer.
Yeah.
The suit, you can tell, like, whenever they could do the suit practically, they did.
Yeah. No, they did. Whatever they could do, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I admire that commitment, definitely.
And obviously, like Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan is the showrunner. And it has a very good ending to the season, bringing all the disparate threads together.
Yeah.
The cameos and guest spots ranged from why not to really good, for the most part. I'll take as much Michael Emerson as I can get.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Same goes for Glenn Flashler. Michael Rappaport was a strange choice, but I thought he did well.
Yeah.
But he's the kind of guy, oh no, it's fucking Michael Rappaport. But
oh no, it's the worst villain of Justified.
I know, and Prison Break.
Yeah.
I, of course, love Matt Berry, but he's a risk. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
If your show is animated, or there's a robot, or some such, he will be in it.
Yeah.
And I probably would have considered it overuse if he didn't then actually turn up.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something different.
Yeah, they are using everything that they've got.
Yeah, and he's an actor. He's a voice actor in it.
Yeah, the voice is the robot.
Yeah. It makes it feel less obvious, especially considering, like I say, he's playing an actor who lent his voice to the corporation. The only real dud was Fred Armisen. I mean, he is for me in general, but someone that's adjacent to Kamal Nanjiani in that camp of the no. But he's in it very briefly.
Yeah.
As for other criticisms, I don't have many to offer, really. It has a very, very strong start, and then it wavers for the rest. But it never dips below a certain threshold.
Yeah.
Maximus is my biggest issue, but it's not that he's bad, he's just a bit bland.
Yeah.
And must there be a non-binary character in everything?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on it, because on the one hand, like, the world has ended. How much would people care about that kind of stuff after the world had ended?
You mean the people who identify as non-binary?
Well, yeah, not just people identifying as non-binary, but people being willing to recognise them as non-binary.
Well, it's kind of in a way, for a dystopia, it's a utopian vision of that stuff, isn't it? Which is
that's...
when they're in things, you've got the two lanes, haven't you? You've got the, I'm non-binary and trans and I experience oppression, and then you've got, we're just going to create things where it's not questioned, like Ripley. Yeah. That's just the way that it is now.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the other side of it. Not only it's likely that non-binary people would survive an apocalypse, along with, every other type of people that identifies, or every other type of thing. But yeah, why not? I think part of the reason, certainly with the Vaults, I don't know necessarily about the Brotherhood at Steel, but certainly with the Vaults, the idea is that they are trying to preserve civilization and humanity.
Right.
So yeah, it ended up not bothering me, because it didn't feel...
And you think non-binary is the thing that's preserving and not destroying civilization? That's interesting.
I think that if people were sitting down and going, right, how do we preserve civilization? It's something they would consider. It's like, right, do we keep the non-binary?
What?
Is that... Yeah, would people still identify as non-binary? Would people still care to recognise people as identifying as non-binary? Or would it just be like, we're all just trying to survive?
In the event of a nuclear apocalypse?
Yeah.
Well, the answer's in order, probably not and no.
Okay.
But no, it's not that
but this is a while after the...
No,
yeah.
It doesn't bother me there was a non-binary character within the universe of the show. It wasn't like, oh really, in this scenario. No, it was the fact that every show has to put a non-binary character into it.
Right, okay.
Not within the universe of the show.
I see, okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, like on the extrinsic macro writing level. Yeah, it's very much the next Last of Us in the ways that are obvious. Post-apocalypse, video game adaptation, big budget. Television is at a place now where it can realise worlds like Fallout, and these stories and universes have time to breathe.
Yeah.
The content isn't all crammed into a film. This is overall, I would say, superior to The Last of Us. Bella Ramsey's my big problem with that show.
Yeah, and she's not in this thing.
But I know she's otherwise revered.
Yeah.
That aside, one isn't watching this and constantly comparing it to the game, which you are with The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will get the ubiquitous love that Last of Us got at the various awards, because it takes itself less seriously, but that's to its credit.
Yeah.
And I think it's a better show.
Yeah, because that's a trap they could have fallen into as well. Not just having less respect for the universe and not translating it as intelligently as they have, but kind of going, The Last of Us was successful, let's emulate that.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that.
To be fair, it was probably in production,
I don't know, because I'm pretty sure I've seen Jonathan Nolan say that The Last of Us helped get Fallout made.
Okay.
There was probably, they've been in talks. Halo was in development hell for ages before it came out. Yeah. Sonic was, this probably was. BioShock is still trying to get made. I think the success of The Last of Us is probably the thing that got this pushed forward.
Okay.
That really got, the momentum of this rolling.
Yeah.
But yeah, they looked at Fallout. They looked at what they had and said, right, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And they did it well. There's, little things that I'm kind of like, oh, okay. So I think when she's taken to the mall by Walton Goggins and the Matt Berry robot is she's had her finger removed and he gets a spare finger and kind of welds it onto her hands.
Yeah.
And then immediately says to her, I'm going to harvest your organs.
Right.
So okay, so he went to the effort of repairing her just to cut her up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
good point. I don't know.
It's not a major point, and I kind of brought it up just to sort of illustrate that my problems with the show only ever get that big, really. I have no macro problems with it. There's just little individual moments where it's that was kind of strange.
I'm not trying to, I really can't... I remember him trying to harvest her organs, but is it that he's glitching? Is it he's not...
Well, no, that's the protocol that he's operating under. Yeah. Because he works for...
Those, yeah.
Yeah, for whoever he works for.
Yeah, all right.
But yeah, it's a broad recommendation.
Oh, massive. I think it's probably... It's the best drama series of the year, in my opinion, so far.
So far, it's pretty strong, definitely.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, I'm glad it got a season 2. I guess my only hope is that...
It stays good.
It stays good, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's got as solid a foundation as I think you could have given it.
I agree. Okay, Knuckles. Right, I'm going to give the show...
Are you going to tell me to behave before we start?
I'm going to give the show its dues.
Okay.
Firstly, you're going to have to be okay with that.
Okay.
Secondly, don't mistake it for praise.
Right.
Okay? And I'm just going to get everything I have to say out of the way, because I know you have stuff.
Okay.
Knuckles' characterization isn't unique. It's akin to Thor, right?
Yeah.
Which itself wasn't the first of its type. But I don't hate it. It kind of works. It's certainly more potent than Sonic or Tails. The idea of Knuckles mindlessly defending the homestead is fun. If it wasn't accompanied by Plinky Plonky early Naughty's family film score, it would be more so. In a sense, it's an exemplar of what the MCU should be doing, which is not treating each project as the biggerest thing. This is about one of the characters inspiring another to be good at bowling. A little story, one edition of the comic. Daredevil was the rare thing, the first season anyway, that did it right. Remember, it was like, it's set in the area that suffered damage from...
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by, like, it's not the next biggerest big thing.
Yeah.
It's pitched young. I know we always say there's no excuse not to offer the whole family something, but you know what? I liked Daddy Daycare when I was 8. But yes, there's nothing here for you if you're over a certain age. They only abuse the dog factor once, and I mean the family pet, not Knuckles.
Do not. You told me you wanted to be done by 9:30.
That's right.
You can't bait me like this.
It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
The best thing in it are the credits, much like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey's little animations. We are firmly... So that's the good, quote-unquote good stuff.
Yeah, it's hard not to see this as praise, Sam.
What was praiseworthy about that?
You said that it's what the MCU should be doing.
I said, in a sense, it's an exemplar of what the MCU should be doing.
Exemplar.
Which is not treating everything as the biggest thing. And this isn't doing that, is it?
No.
That's an objective fact. That's not a good or a bad thing. Okay, we are firmly in gag reflex territory with the humour. It's tacky and obvious to say an old person is looking old, and it's not quite that. But the work Stockard Channing has had done has not aged her gracefully. I'm all about positive representations of Judaism, but I don't know what that Jewish episode was about. I don't know what the hell Julian Barrett is doing in it. And I know Wade's into bowling and he has the Big Lebowski poster, but heaven being a bowling alley can't help but invoke Fargo, the show, if you've seen it. When Wade is listing the people from whom he learnt strength, he says, most of all, Knuckles. Bit of a dig towards the mum. It's completely absent of darkness or challenge. It's not offensively bad, it's just rubbish. It's blessedly short and it passes without doing major damage. The Guardian gave it 4 stars. Are you going to argue with them?
Yes.
Well, you go tell them that then.
I will. I'll go right now.
No. Yeah, you go tell the Guardian. And I'll go tell...
And I'll finish the podcast early.
And I'll go tell Conor McGregor to his face that he's not the... that he walks like a fucking idiot.
And we'll see which one of us comes out worse.
Well, you'll be cancelled, I'll be killed.
Yeah.
Go on then. Hit me with your knuckle stick.
Yeah. Well, you kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit because I'd written an introduction.
Yeah.
In the probably vain hope that it would impose some structure on this review.
Oh, cool.
I mean, I guess there's no point reading it because you've already kind of like started this review.
Right? Okay.
Needless to say, I didn't like it.
Well, no, I didn't like it either.
Yeah. I think that...
I think this has to be said for all Sonic-related reviews.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I just don't think it's worse than the Holocaust.
Oh, do you know, it's funny that you brought that up.
Go on.
Am I mad?
Yeah.
But do they say that what happened to Knuckles is equal to the Holocaust in this?
I think I missed that.
Okay, in the Jewish episode.
Yeah. It's like the Jewish problem. The Jewish episode.
Yeah, no, in the Jewish episode.
Yeah, there's a Jewish episode.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there is. And it's not just like, oh, they talk about Judaism. It's a Jewish episode.
It's a Jewish episode, yeah.
The big climactic fight sequence
is with a golem.
It's with a Palestinian.
It's with a menorah. It's weird. It's Hanukkah, and Knuckles has a Palestinian over the dinner table, whacking him with a menorah. Tonally, it was a bit of a shift.
Yeah. The big climactic fight sequence is there are people like invading the home, and they have to protect the Shabbat candles, don't they?
Well, there you go. That's Israel and Palestine.
Israel, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah,
I think you ran away from that. I noticed. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. When they're at the dinner table, Stockard Channing is like, so tell me about yourself, Knuckles. And he's like, oh yeah, all my people are dead. I'm the only one left.
Right.
Our race were massacred by a race of giant owls. And Stockard Channing says, and this is not verbatim, but this is like as close as I can remember.
Okay.
She says, my people went through a similar thing, minus the owls.
Okay.
She's talking about the Holocaust, right?
Yeah. At what point does she say that what happened to him is worse?
No, she didn't. No, she compared it to the Holocaust.
Oh, okay.
Because he was like, oh yeah, my people were genocide. And she was like, oh yeah, mine were too.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, I don't remember that. Okay. But yeah, it sounds right. I wouldn't invoke the Holocaust like casually. Certainly not in a Knuckles miniseries.
Yeah, I mean, they don't go there. It's not like they have conversations
I know that. They don't
Holocaust.
go there.
And
the spectre of it.
It's a loose enough reference that you could be like, but they didn't talk about it. But
here's the thing. It wouldn't be reflected as a tonal reality. But within the logic of the show, what happened to him is worse than the Holocaust.
Well,
no,
yeah. I know what you're saying. I'm just curious where you're going.
All of his species... No, I'm not using that to say anything. I'm just saying it's only as a fact of tone that's not true for the show, because it is actually true for that character.
Yeah.
This entire species being wiped out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is not the project where you make that comparison.
Well, I agree. Yeah, it's not the place. But it's again, I don't like this show. Okay, carry on.
Okay. Where the fuck do I start with this?
Near the end.
Tell me what you thought. Yeah, I mean, this is a clarification that I make with every review. I like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
I like films.
Yes.
I don't like the Sonic the Hedgehog films.
No.
I have many problems with them. One of the bigger problems that I have is that they're not good adaptations and they're not good films.
Yeah.
But like their place in the culture seems to be that everybody kind of goes, oh, they're fine.
Well, they are. They're fine.
Yeah, but no.
Well, no, they're rubbish.
They're rubbish,
but they're not awful. They're not like, they're the worst films of the year. They're just bad films.
Yeah.
Bad, middle of the road, crappy, rainy afternoon, take your kids to the cinema films.
And I don't really understand why we're being so broadly uncritical of that, because we shouldn't really be fine.
Who's being broadly uncritical of the Sonic franchise?
Well, people that just kind of go, yeah, it's fine. It's like, no, it's bad. Why are we saying it's fine? Why are we encouraging this? It's a franchise now. Do you think this is the mini-series that came after 2 films? There's a 3rd film coming out later this year.
Do you think that energy is deserved? You think people should be putting energy into really criticising the Sonic franchise?
I'm not saying that, like, you have to...
Because it's shitty.
You have to be as outraged as me.
No, I know. It's shitty.
I'm just surprised that the broad response to this is, yeah, it's fine. Well, like, I'm not gonna engage with it, really.
It's shitty, but it's a harmless franchise. That's the key thing, right? It's not good. It's not a good franchise.
Yeah.
But it's who's it hurting kind of thing. I know you.
Yeah.
But it's not like the Transformers things where it's just, it's gross and it's got all that sexual stuff in it and excessive. It's like just decadent.
Yeah.
These are just crappy kids films and now TV shows.
Yeah. But
they don't deserve the effort it would take to really deconstruct them.
Yeah.
I say.
But that's the thing. They could not be.
They could not be what?
They could not be shitty kids' films.
Yeah, of course. But you could say that about anything. The question is, where do you dedicate your focus to in terms of critique?
On the things where they could not be shitty. Like,
but that's most things.
Yeah, but there are some things where it's like, well, this was never not going to be shitty.
But I
don't feel like this is an example of that.
Do you think this franchise deserves a disproportionate amount of criticism?
No, because you see, what you're doing is you've kind of forced yourself. And I'll take some of the blame here, because I have taken a very strong position in the past on this stuff. Because of the how strong my position is, you felt compelled to go completely the other way. So you are...
I don't know if we can say I went completely the other way. Oh yeah, you're right. It's better than the zone of interest.
No, because what you're doing is, like, you're just kind of going, well, let's find the good in it.
No, I'm giving it... It's what's called giving it its dues.
Yeah, you're finding the good in it. And when I'm criticising it, I get things like that from you, where it's like, I give a criticism and then you go, yeah, but do you think it deserves this?
No. That's a straw man you directed there, my friend.
Is it?
You said, why aren't people talking about this more? And my response to that is, do you think it deserves a disproportionate amount of criticism?
See the word disproportionate right there.
Yeah, a disproportionate amount of criticism.
Why is it disproportionate?
Because there are people that say it's not good or it's fine or whatever. I'm saying, do you think it deserves more than that? In terms of where we can focus our energies in terms of critique, do you think this franchise deserves a bigger share of criticism than other things?
It depends on what those other things are.
Well, everything else.
Okay. Well, that's unfair, because you're comparing one thing to everything else.
No, I'm not. You're just saying things now. I'm not comparing it to everything else. I'm saying it's like you've got £2 worth of attention.
Yeah.
How much should you be spending on Sonic?
Well, you want me to quantify it in terms of currency?
Yeah, that's what attention is. It's currency. It's the most important form of currency there is.
No, I don't
Yes.
like where this is going. I feel like I'm going to lose this, so I want to stop.
No, you said I'm not talking about you. I know you're going to pay a disproportionate amount of. Let's acknowledge that now.
Yeah.
Your attitude and relationship to this franchise is disproportionate to normality.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
It is.
I have a vested interest in it.
But therein lies the disproportion. You're not treating this like any other thing that we would.
But it would still be
It
disproportionate.
means something to you.
If I treated it normally, it would still be disproportional because the attitude that I'd be approaching it with wouldn't match the care that I have for it.
What? Say that again.
Because you're saying that it's disproportionate that you care so much.
I didn't say that.
What did you say? Because I feel like I got a point, so I want to make sure I get it right.
What do you want me to clarify exactly?
What you just said.
I know that your attitude to it
Yeah.
is disproportionate because you are a fan of the not this franchise, but you're a fan of Sonic.
Yeah.
So yes, you're going to have a disproportionate relationship to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I was saying.
Okay.
Am I wrong? Is that wrong?
Well, so the point I was making off the back of that was, so if I treated it normally, if I treated my review of it normally,
Yeah.
there would still be a disproportion.
In your head, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm me, so that matters to me.
I don't know. We haven't even got to the review yet.
No, I haven't really started, yeah.
I wasn't criticizing. This all comes off the back of you saying you're not happy that people are just kind of going about these films.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, does it deserve more than that?
I think it does.
Okay, I don't. That's the big gulf between you and me.
Okay.
I think they are rubbish, middle of the road things. They are not awful and worthy of dissection. They're just they're path. They're nothing. They're crap.
But I think if you were going to talk about why or how these could be improved or why a better adaptation is necessary, then it does call for that.
But you wouldn't do that for anything else.
No, but I can do that for this.
Okay, but must we inflict that on the audience?
But I have a duty to me, Sam.
But this podcast is not a vanity project. It's not about you. It's about the listeners.
Who is listening at this point?
Well, that's the big problem, isn't it? Is we can be as indulgent as we want, really.
Yeah.
But I try and exercise some discipline.
Okay.
Over. If I was doing this podcast on my own, it would last no longer than half an hour. You know, because I like things being short, as we spoke about earlier.
Yes.
I certainly don't think the world needs an hour and a half. If we were being conservative, Knuckles review.
No.
It needs a 10-minute one.
Well, it needs as long as it takes to make it clear that this is not a good thing.
That's already clear.
Is it?
I promise you that's already clear.
Okay. Because you said that this is what you said that Marvel should use this as an example.
I didn't say Marvel should use this as an example. Say that. God, the Lord of Straw Men.
So I don't like the Sonic films.
Okay.
Yeah. The broad reception with people that are not really a fan of the franchise is like...
I love these conversations. Because every time it's like, Jordan, I'm not going to let you. You got to get in and out.
Yeah.
Like, for fuck's sake, don't be micro-noting everything. But it always becomes this, which is you get so resentful that I'm tepid about my, let's face it, dislike of it. Not even like. I would get it if I liked it. It's like, no, it's not strong enough. But go on.
Yeah, and also people within the fan community, I felt were disproportionately praising it, which is to be expected, right? Because with fanboys and fangirls, yeah. Yeah, because this is a franchise that obviously was massive in the 90s and then sort of completely dipped out in the noughties. It continued.
Yeah, but not with the same...
No, Sonic has not been a part of the cultural conversation since the end of 99, really. When people talk about, oh yeah, I played Sonic, they're always talking about, the original ones. So...
Dare I say, you're not going to like this. I think now, with the younger generation, Sonic will be more associated with the films than with games.
Yeah, and I don't like that personally, but I'm willing to write that off.
No, I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm saying that's, unfortunately, well, I suppose I am saying it's a bad thing. That's what it's going to be now.
Yeah, there's a whole new generation of Sonic fans that are Sonic fans because of this film.
Yeah.
And, you said that you liked, what was it you said you liked when you were younger? Daddy Daycare?
I just use that as an example of... It's not a good film, and it's not for anyone over a certain age.
Yeah.
But I can't deny that I did like it when it was
and the time that I spent as a Transformers fan was because of the Michael Bay Transformers films.
Right.
I was exactly the right age when they came out, and they did appeal to me.
Right.
So I'm not, I don't like those films, but I can't tell.
No, you kids are dumb. Kids like stupid
kids are dumb,
things.
but also I can't tell them they're wrong for getting into the like they got into the franchise the wrong way.
Of course,
that's not a fair thing. It's like, the film brought in new fans, whatever. Okay, they're fine. I guess that's a good thing.
Yes,
and the franchise before the films came out was quite. There was a sparsity in things that were coming out. It was like years between projects. Nothing really happened in between them. Sonic wasn't like a big topic of conversation in the culture. The film comes out, suddenly everyone's talking about Sonic again.
Though
and
I suppose
the general success of the film, suddenly now the franchise, like we're getting, not major releases, but we're getting like 2 or 3 games a year. Like the franchise is properly kicking again.
Oh, okay.
So you got to
that was kind of my question. Like when I said more people now will associate the character with the films than the games. And you said it's got more fans, so you can't like judge.
Yeah.
But do you think that the fans that it now has from the films play the games? Or is it like, I like the Sonic films.
Yeah.
Does it actually drive them to the games?
I mean, that's the design of the film, right? Is that it's an entry point for people. And they, I don't know is the honest answer. I think that for some people, there's going to be a surprise when they go to play the games.
Right.
And they might find they're like, oh yeah, this isn't what I was expecting at all, based on like what was in the films. Yeah. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, the fan community was incredibly positive, and I feel like that was more to do with the fact that it brought Sonic
representing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it was, representation. That's
it's got like, it's a big summer release or a big winter.
Which I will say is interesting, because I maybe erroneously associate fanboy and fangirldom with gatekeeping.
Yeah.
So the idea
it's going to be one or the other, right? They're either going to be like me, I suppose, where it's like, oh, it's all wrong and it's stupid.
No, I don't mean it's...
Or because it's popular, it's great.
Yeah, the very fact that it's popular and people are liking it. You have like... I listened to that band when they had, didn't have an album yet.
Yeah.
They were just singing
a cappella I was listening to them before they wrote music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I associate it with. And I think because I have that impulse.
Yeah.
I had it with Breaking Bad. Which is, and it's, it's bittersweet, isn't it? Because you go, oh, I'm glad it's getting the love it deserves, but fucking right, it's mine, sure, it's mine.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult when people to whom you had recommended it years earlier come back and recommend it to you, and you're like, who the fuck do you think you are? Yeah. Yeah, so I do understand that, but so it's interesting that the response seemed to be positive.
Yeah,
to these films.
There were people that had negative things to say about it, obviously, but the general tone was towards these films was very positive.
One of celebration.
Yeah, and people that did speak negatively about it were questioned, to say the least.
Okay.
It's like, oh, you're just being negative.
Right.
With the release of Knuckles, this is kind of marking the first point in the film universe where it feels like those fans, like people that started to were very positive about these films, are starting to wise up to it a little bit.
Okay.
Because the show is called Knuckles. Knuckles isn't the main character.
No, I would concede that, yeah.
And in the second half of the show, he's not really there that much either.
That's true.
Like the plot summary that I wrote that I'm now not going to read. This isn't me foreshadowing. I'm actually not going to read it.
Okay.
Like I'd written it, basically I'd kind of written the plot summary, and it's just about Wade. Yeah. And it ends with me saying, and Knuckles is also there, I guess. Because really, apart from the inciting incident, Knuckles isn't really a factor in it.
Knuckles could face the same criticism as the magical Negro trope, which is he only exists to advance the story of another character. Yeah, no, that is kind of true in this. He is sidelined.
Yeah.
He's kind of a mascot.
Yeah.
Maybe a dog mascot.
Yeah. And despite...
you missed that one, did you?
The magical dog mascot. No, I'm ignoring you.
I just said dog mascot.
Yeah, I'm ignoring you.
Okay, that's fine, as long as I know that you heard me.
No, I'm ignoring you. I didn't hear it. It never happened. Stop it! There's a perfectly nice dog in this show that you can like instead. Why do you have to make Knuckles a dog?
I don't like Knuckles, I'm just saying that he's a dog.
No, I'm talking about... Stop it.
Knuckles is a dog.
Talking about the golden retriever.
Yeah, he's a good dog.
Yeah, he's a great dog.
He's a good boy.
Yeah, he's a great boy.
Yeah.
No. That won't even pick up on the mic. You're just taunting me now.
At what point was I taunting the listener?
No.
Trust me, no one else in the world is offended that I say Knuckles is a dog.
No, I know, but you were playing it up for the audio.
Yeah.
And then you deliberately did something that's not going to pick up. Because it was just meant for me.
Okay.
Right. Anyway, yes, and that's been recognised. Not just but by other people that have reviewed this as well. It's like, this isn't really the Knuckles show.
Yeah.
Maybe call it Wade and Knuckles.
Yeah. Knuckles and Wade.
Knuckles and Wade.
Yeah.
It's I thought that this would be something that, as they kind of adapted more from the games and as this franchise kind of continued, the humans would become more and more diluted. But it seems to be going the other way. They seem to be gaining more of a presence. I don't know what that means for the third film that's coming out.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? It's hard to judge because this is a spin-off miniseries. Like, who knows if it's emblematic of anything, really? Yeah. I don't know. But no, I agree, yeah. It's got to stop doing what it's doing. Yeah. 100%.
Well, that's the thing. It might have to after a while because the third film that's coming out, they've said, like, because obviously Shadow's in it, and so they're kind of taking a lot of inspiration from the game that introduced him, which, as I said to you earlier, is probably one of the more narratively driven Sonic games that are out there. And there are humans within that story, but there's a lot of stuff in there that you can't just do it like in James Marsden's attic in Green Hills. Yeah. It's like a global story. It requires you to kind of be with those characters that are driving the plot. So I don't know. I don't know whether they're going to... This is sort of the trajectory that they're going to continue. Like, they're just going to keep doing the human stuff. And just like all of the Sonic stuff is just going to become, you know, like it's because as it gets more expensive and more absurd, it's going to be sidelined a lot more. Right. It's almost as if the direction that they've chosen to take in this franchise is not compatible with the stuff that they're adapting, and now it's becoming a problem. Okay. You're less fun when you're when you're just leaving me to my own devices.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree. You know. Yeah, sure. It's not compatible with what it's adapting. Yeah, I mean, what exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean that it's... I mean, not compatible in the sense that... What we're saying is they're not good adaptations. Yeah. Right? That's basically what it comes down to.
I mean, Sonic has coexisted with humans before, and you could rewrite stories so that humans have a greater presence in them if you're going to adapt it, or you can just write your own stuff where humans are more of a presence. I do think that live action is the wrong medium for Sonic.
I agree. Yeah, we talked about this earlier.
Yeah, like, really.
Yeah, we also talked about this off the podcast.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't have done that, because now you're having the same conversation twice. Yeah, now the Spider-Verse is out, that really is the direction that I think you should have taken this. Yeah. Focus on, like, interesting, unique animation that makes the most of the character's abilities. Yeah. And then you can kind of worry about, what's the story doing?
About?
Yeah, what's it about?
So, right, why is Knuckles bad?
Why is Knuckles bad?
Yeah, you haven't really said yet.
Okay, well...
Other than the fact that Wade is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, It's bad because Knuckles is not the star of his own show. Instead, we've got to put up with Wade, who I did not enjoy. I don't know about you.
No, it's gag reflex. Like, I hate that kind of comedy. I hate that kind of comedian. Yeah.
Just the whole sequence in the second episode where he is imagining him breaking into the base to free Knuckles. Yeah. I know that it's a set. The punchline is that when he actually does it, he fucks it up.
Of course.
But I'm just like, fucking get on with it.
It's just shitty, again, like juvenile humour, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, Shrek 2 came out in 2004.
It did.
It perfected the action sequence to I Need a Hero thing.
Well, I mean,
Stop doing it.
I know, that's become cliche in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, he's not funny. Everything just takes too long, which is like ridiculous given that like a lot of the show feels like filler.
You might take a lesson.
No, this is the bit where I'm actually saying stuff. We're finally here.
Well, so nothing really happens.
Nothing really happens. And I know you said that like this by design this is a smaller story.
Yeah, no, but that's not to excuse the fact that nothing happens. It's very airy. It's very lightweight. When I think of it, it's kind of empty inside. Yeah. I don't mean that in the sense it's vacuous, though it is not about anything really. Yeah. It's just like an Easter egg. Big chocolate, and there's just nothing. It's airy fairy.
It's completely hollow inside.
Yeah, nothing happens. It's just kind of, it breezes past you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it does feel like a distraction in ways. I said this off podcast as well to you. My theory is that with the third film coming out, Shadow kind of serves a similar function to what Knuckles served in Sonic 2. Yeah. He is an antagonistic opponent for Sonic that will eventually become an ally.
God help us when Sonic 3 comes out. Because Shadow, you have a particular affinity for Shadow.
I like Shadow, yeah.
So, God help us. I might just let you do a solo review. so we can crack on.
No, we got to get Eddie in for that one. We got to do the proper...
Yeah.
The proper
when's it out? It might end up being the 100th episode or something.
I think it's the end of the year, like December 20th or something.
No.
It'll be a Christmas film.
It'll be the 78th. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be the big Christmas episode.
Christmas, yeah. All right.
Yeah, just in time for the worst of the
year. Here's the thing. Here's the reality.
Yeah.
I know it won't be one of the 10 worst of the year, but I know it will be in your list.
Well, we haven't even decided that we're doing a top 10 worst. We are.
We are.
Okay.
That was part of the reason for fucking watching everything.
Well, get ready then.
Yeah.
I will say this. Knuckles is... I'm obviously not done with the television of 2024.
No, yeah.
We're only halfway through the year. There's a lot of stuff left to go. Knuckles is not in my bottom 10.
Okay, good. You haven't gone insane then.
I haven't gone insane. I don't like it.
No, I know that, but that's good.
Yeah, and I think it says more about the stuff that's beneath it. Like how bad that stuff is.
Well, but, I haven't watched any of that stuff, so I can't compare it.
Yeah. Well, no, you watched True Detective Night Country.
I did. Yes. Okay.
Even I will admit that is not better than... Knuckles is not worse than that.
No. Yeah. Okay. But no, it's good that you don't have... You're not so offended that it would be the worst.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So to kind of wrap that point up, yeah, I think that because Shadow is going to serve a similar function to Knuckles, and also they're going to have more characters to juggle, Knuckles isn't really going to be in the third one.
Okay.
This is his excuse for not being in the third one. He's off doing this adventure with Wade.
Okay, you could be right.
I could be right. He might turn up for the finale. Yeah. He might even have a presence in the story a little bit, but I think this is what they're going to do.
Okay.
This is how they're going to deal with the fact that it's going to be a heavy script.
Honestly, the whole thing is just kind of baffling to me because these films have done well, right? Financially.
Yeah.
But they just don't see... They're not part of the... Because they're not very good.
Yeah.
And because, Succession wasn't widely watched. But it was widely talked about in the conversation, quote unquote, because, critics talked about it and it was part of pop culture in that way. But it wasn't a popular show. Pretty much all the most popular things aren't talked about.
Yeah.
Especially with TV. But it's the fact that there's enough, at least inferred demand, that you could do a Knuckles miniseries.
Yeah.
It's kind of absurd to me. Because the films are so lightweight.
Yeah.
And disposable. That's what I'm saying. They're disposable. They just get rid of them. But it has its own universe. That to me is just kind of incomprehensible.
Yeah, and that universe is everyone just lives in James Marsden's attic.
Yeah, but Knuckles, he's getting his own...
Yeah.
I'm not saying the character doesn't deserve it. I don't know anything about the character, but, within the context of this, Knuckles... Imagine you watch the Sonic films and you go, yeah, now that character is getting his own spin-off miniseries. You go, what?
Yeah, it is strange.
How are people watching it? But apparently they must be, so...
Well, it was wasn't it one of the most watched shows on Paramount Plus or something?
It's for kids, it's got that going for it, right?
Yeah.
So it's got a bigger audience there. You can't beat kids things, but still.
You can't beat kids.
Can't fuck anymore. Health and safety.
It's not that it's morally wrong, it's a health and safety violation. Yeah. Yeah, so how about that? Another problem with it, because you asked me what the problems were.
Yeah.
This is just the first film again.
Yes, it is.
Another limitation of the universe that they've established is they told the story of the first film, which was Sonic makes a friend. And then in the second film, they realised that Sonic's actual friends were going to be coming into it. So they made James Marsden his dad.
Yes.
And it ended up kind of being like a weird little superhero story. It was like Sonic versus Knuckles. And then Eggman's in there as well. And now this film it's just a retread of the first one. Knuckles and Wade make friends.
You're right.
The dynamic is slightly inverted in that the super-powered anthropomorphic creature is the straight man this time. Wade is the one telling the jokes.
Yeah.
But the journey they go on is basically exactly the same. You've got that shot of the two of them sitting in the car. They both end up in this eatery in the middle of nowhere where they bond.
Yeah, weirdly
the villain is kind of got the same plot where he wants the quills. It's all kind of the same.
Weirdly, the thing that this franchise has decided that it is kind of buddy road movies.
Yeah.
Why?
I
guess the idea is, I didn't even know, Sonic Fast, therefore road movie. But it's in a car.
Yeah, road movies were never known for their speed.
No, exactly, yeah.
This character can run at the speed of sound. Put him in a car.
Yeah.
Have him drive casually down the road.
Yeah. No, it's not very good.
No, it's not very good.
Yeah.
I still don't understand the quill thing. Because the big plot that Robotnik had and now this guy has, they don't even give the villain a name. That's how little they're trying.
Oh, right, okay.
Is they want the quills, their quills on it, because they contain, power. I think one of the rogue gun agents in this says that, each quill contains, the power of a thermonuclear explosion or something. Something ridiculous like that. It's like these are super, super powerful things.
Yeah.
But they're just shedding their quills. Like, they're trying to capture them and absorb the power. But he already has a ton of Knuckles' quills because Knuckles just sheds them naturally.
Right.
So what's the threat here? What's the need for conflict? Just keep an eye on Knuckles, and then when he sheds his quills, just collect them.
Yeah.
You have this thing which apparently has the power of a thermonuclear explosion, and he's just put it in like a gauntlet, so this guy can punch a little bit harder.
Dogs don't have quills.
So are we in agreement so far of all of the points that I've said?
Yeah.
All 2 of them, I think, in this 20-hour review. Oh yeah, fuck you.
Why is that?
You warned me about episode 4 of Baby Reindeer, but you didn't warn me about episode 4 of this.
What happens to episode 4 of this?
It's the musical number episode.
Oh, okay. Well, and it's not like you're going to like it and then it was going to get ruined, was it?
Yeah, but you still warned me about these things,
worse.
Sam.
Yeah, no, that was bad.
Yeah.
That was bad. And that's like Julian Barrett is just embarrassing himself. I don't know what he's doing in the series.
Because, I mean, like, really, it's an excuse for them to not have Knuckles about.
Yeah.
Really. Because, it's like, oh, he has this vision about... Like, his Knuckles' past is kind of explained to him, and he kind of, like, gets himself out of trouble, and that makes him worthy to go to the bowling tournament or something, I guess.
Something like that.
I will say, the idea of exposition through a musical number... It's like...
Well, that's what a musical is.
Yeah, but no, but like in this show that is not a musical, to have this kind of like musical number out of nowhere as an interesting way of delivering exposition
is somewhat incongruous.
It's somewhat incongruous, but like, oh, okay.
God, now weird. Now you saying it's good and I'm saying it's not.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that it's not lazy.
Okay.
And these films are lazy, and so when they are not lazy, I'm like, okay. You're trying. I can see that you're trying. I don't like it, but I can see that you're trying.
Okay.
It's the same with that action sequence at the Shabbat dinner, where it's that single take where the camera's rotating around the candles and they're always at the center of the frame.
Yes.
And all of the action is happening around them.
Yeah.
It's a short little action sequence that has a very clear premise. Mm-hmm. It's got a funny premise as well because they're protecting candles.
Yes.
And that shot, even with all of the digital enhancements, could not have been easy to do.
Yeah.
So I'll give them credit for that. Mm-hmm. I'm not above this, Sam.
Well, the show is beneath you, isn't it?
But yeah, I didn't like the musical number. It's no Herald of Darkness, that's for sure.
It's not what?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't know this because you stopped paying attention to video games.
Herald of Darkness. Jordan, I'm telling you, no one listening knows what you're talking about.
People who've played Alan Wake 2 know what that... Actually, no one's played Alan Wake 2, so yeah, you're probably right.
You can't just throw away, it's no Herald of Darkness.
Someone will get that reference.
They're all supposed to go, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not. And you would agree with me if you knew.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm disagreeing on you throwing it out as a throwaway reference.
Basically, Alan Wake 2, it's a psychological horror game.
God, you're sensitive. Is it your time of the month?
What?
I'm
just telling you what Alan Wake 2 is.
Whenever we do a podcast about Sonic, it's your time of the month.
I'm just telling you what that thing that you criticised me for not telling you is. I
wasn't having a pop about that. But carry on.
What are you having a pop about?
Like, go on. Carry on.
Just that I care about something.
In like a bitch, yeah.
Right, okay.
Crack on, go on.
Okay, Alan Wake 2, it's a psychological horror game, but there's a sequence that happens around... I don't know exactly where in the game it happens.
Herald of Darkness.
There's a random sequence where they do a musical number, basically. Okay. The idea is that like it's telling you about the life story of Alan Wake as you, the player, are kind of running through this kind of soundstage environment, fighting enemies, and everything's kind of happening around you to the music. And it's this kind of like out of nowhere, like, what the fuck kind of sequence. Right. That has basically become like, if you know anything about Alan Wake 2, you know the Herald of Darkness sequence. Because it's a good song as well.
Okay.
Like, that's the thing. I don't like musical numbers. Mm-hmm. Part of that is probably because I usually don't like the music.
Right.
And so Herald of Darkness is just a good song. And so I do like that sequence. This is not a good song that's in this. I don't even remember what the song is.
Nor do I.
And that's another horrible thing. In a franchise that's usually pretty good when it comes to its music, I can't remember a single piece of music from any of these things.
Yes.
That have come from Paramount. So yeah, I would have appreciated the warning.
Well, you didn't get it.
About episode 4. I mean, that's the thing. Ultimately, it's not good, but it's already... The franchise is already reaching a point where it's repeating its mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so, as time goes on, there's going to be less and less to say, because we've been through this all before. We've been through this all before, and I can only hope that, like, the third one... Here's the thing, I don't want to dislike these films. Yes, I was initially bitter that I was not the first person to do a Sonic adaptation.
You can't be serious about that.
No, I was. Like,
really?
Yeah, I was like, I'd like to do that. I'd like to adapt it. Oh, someone's already adapted it. Oh, that's a shame.
Okay.
Especially now that, like, if that ever happens, this is what it's going to be compared to, or this is what I'm going to have to,
Okay.
You gotta stop laughing whenever I express that I care about things.
No, it's not that you care about it. That's like a genuine thing for you. Like, there are things that I want, that, in an ideal world, I'd like to adapt.
Yeah.
But if someone adapts it before me, I can't, like, be... We're not in the industry, John.
Yeah, no, I know. I know, but I don't...
If it's like we have half a shot at doing it and it gets taken away from us, fair enough.
Yeah.
But it's like a pipe dream, isn't it?
Well,
it's
yeah,
like...
no, but that, and I will fully admit that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was beyond reason for me to be surprised that the adaptation happened when it did.
Oh, no, not that.
Because it just seemed like it was one of those things where, like, I guess they're just not going to do that. It would be nice.
Right.
Pipe dream thinking, it would be nice if I was the first one.
Okay.
I'm not the first one. That's a shame. But I don't want to dislike these films.
No.
I would like to like them.
Yes.
I would like the third one to be all right. But I don't know. It's like based on everything that's come before, certainly based on this.
Yeah. Well,
I don't see them learning from their mistakes.
If it's even half decent, I mean, it'd have to be a masterpiece, right? Because how does it escape the shadow of the first two? How does it escape the shadow of the first two? Because you can get a sequel that, like, oh my god, it's amazing, and the first film's a dud.
Yeah.
But it would have to be fucking excellent, right? For you to think of it as anything outside of...
Are you saying me specifically, or are you just saying generally?
Generally.
Yeah.
Generally. Yeah. Like, it's such a dull, dud franchise.
Yeah.
Film franchise.
Yeah.
What could you possibly do that you'd go, oh, that's fucking good?
Yeah.
The biggest leap you can kind of make, I'm sure I'll think of one immediately after I say this.
Yeah.
But like the Bourne Identity, which is good, and then the Bourne Supremacy, which is really good.
Yeah.
And then obviously
Ultimatum is great.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer Supremacy, but the point is, like, those two, the Greengrass films, are great.
Yeah.
But Identity wasn't bad. It was good. It just wasn't great.
Yeah. And this is not starting from a place where it's good.
It's not.
Yeah.
No. So I think the best we can hope for is that it's alright. Genuinely alright. I don't think Knuckles is alright. Yeah. You're saying, like, most people go with the Sonic franchise, oh, it's alright. Yeah. It's not alright. They're bad. Yeah. They're bad films. They're rubbish films.
Yeah. 4 stars, apparently, according to The Guardian.
Yeah. Well, it's The Guardian.
Right.
Who seem very contrary. I mean, obviously, politically, they're very, very left-wing. But lately, it seems that shows that are well reviewed, they are giving bad reviews to, and vice versa.
Okay.
Everything.
You don't, by any chance, know what the Baby Reindeer score was, do you?
I don't. I'm sure they gave a good review to that.
Oh, okay.
To be fair, not absolutely average. Like, something that political, they're going to give a good review to.
Yeah. But yeah, 4 stars is disproportionate, even just given everyone else's
Knuckles
is
are we doing halves, or are we doing round stars here?
I mean, you know what you prefer.
It's not a 1. A 2. Okay. It's 2 out of 5. But like 1.5, I was
going to say, are you pushing yourself?
No, it's not 2.5 out of 5. But 1.5 even seems like low. It's a 2-star thing. Okay. It's not a 4-star thing.
Yeah.
If you go with the Empire standard, which is like awful, poor, good, excellent, classic. Yeah. It's 2. Yeah. It's a poor thing. Poor things.
Poor things, indeed. Yeah, I'd agree. I did not enjoy it.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah, no, that's it. I was like, oh, do I make him suffer more? But you edit these now, so I know you're just going to cut it all out.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
I would never do that. Okay. I would like these things to be brisker, but nothing substantive ever gets cut.
Yeah, no, I think I'm past the point as well now where, like, oh, it's a Sonic review, I must make this as long as possible.
Yeah, you don't feel that obligation.
I don't feel that obligation, no.
Let's just tell the audience, he can do it.
Oh, yeah.
It's within his capabilities.
It's within my power. There's a lot of micro stuff in this that I did not bring up.
Yeah.
I'm only bringing it up to make a point of the fact that I didn't bring it up.
You're showing your restraint.
I'm showing my restraint.
Or is it restraint? Or is it the fact that I would impose a sanction?
It's restraint because I'm only going to do it once. Okay. There's a moment, I think it's like in the Jewish episode, funnily enough, it's not like a major episode of the show.
Yeah.
Like, we brought it up disproportionately in this review.
Not a major episode in terms of what happens in the show.
Yeah.
We haven't treated it disproportionately.
Yeah.
It is disproportionate in the show because it's just this kind of meandering, not very funny but trying to be kiddie road thing. And then there's an episode that all of a sudden we're learning about Judaism.
Yeah.
Whoa, why? What is this about?
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that will be made as like a response to the Hamas attack, in a way.
Yeah.
As in like, oh, let's talk about the history of Judaism and sing its praises and that kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know, why it was called for in this miniseries. So that's why I think that does deserve some disproportionate discussion. But yes, carry on.
Okay. Unfortunately for you, you just reminded me of another criticism that I just have.
Is it micro?
It's not micro.
Okay.
I think it is a broad problem.
Okay.
We'll get the micro thing out of the way.
Fine.
The micro thing is like Knuckles is in Wade's bedroom having a conversation with him, and then Knuckles turns around to leave, but the door opens before he's even turned around.
Okay.
So it's like, right, you're just like not paying attention.
Okay.
I know that like, sometimes animation, you kind of have to push things out early or, you just hope the audience won't pick it up. But come on.
Okay. Yes.
I avoided bringing stuff up like that.
Okay.
But the broader criticism that we will close out the review on, and I'm saying that now to make sure we do actually close out the review on it. Much like in the first film, there's a point where Wade and Knuckles become wanted by the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
Wade's sister, the worst character in the show, just like awful performance, like awful, is an FBI agent with whom he has a competitive, tumultuous relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Not once does she consider turning him in or even bring up that they're on the run.
Mm-hmm.
And there are multiple times after they find out that they're on the run that him and Knuckles are just out in public. Like, even in the first film, they paid lip service to the fact that Sonic had to wear disguises and kind of stay in hiding.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even bothering with that this time.
Well, that's emblematic of the whole thing, which is, who cares?
Yeah.
I'm saying their attitude to it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, which is, does it matter?
Well, it does matter, because it's a plot point you brought up.
Does it matter, though? Who cares?
Yes!
Who cares?
Why are you making it if it doesn't matter?
Money. Makes me money.
Oh, well, at least you admitted it.
Well, no one's doing this for the love of the craft or the art.
No, they are certainly not.
Yeah.
No.
Done?
Yeah, let's cut it there.
Okay.
Before I remember
Alright,
anything
okay.
else.
Yeah, it's not a recommendation.
Certainly not.
From either of us. It's just really not from Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay. Late Night with the Devil.
Okay. Oh, interesting that we're doing this one last.
Alphabetically, again.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought like, oh, maybe he's done this because it's like, oh, I need a nice like come down after the Knuckles review. Just something where it's like there's less to say. We both agree on it.
Well, let's
bring it all down to earth.
Let's pretend it was that considered.
Okay.
Rather than just by rote.
Okay.
Do you want to premise it?
Okay. The premise, according to the film, is that in the 70s there was a talk show called Night Owls. Late night talk show.
Yeah, Night Owls, yeah.
There was an episode of this talk show that aired once, and because of the controversy within it, it was never aired again. The film is like, now we're going to show you that episode with additional behind-the-scenes footage to kind of give context to what's happening.
Yeah, it's framed as a documentary.
Yeah.
It kind of, you get a little intro about the period and the host of the talk show.
Yeah.
And then we just see the episode play out.
Yeah.
Yes, but with behind-the-scenes stuff also cut in.
Yeah, so when we say that it is the episode, obviously it's fictional, this didn't really happen. But when we say that this is the episode of the talk show, they're talking to camera, it's filmed, like the idea is that it's filmed like
Yeah, you're watching a talk show.
Yeah.
So a lot of this film ticks a lot of my boxes on paper.
Yeah.
And I want to start by saying it's a very admirable effort.
If you're making something like this, I mean, this is something we'll go into more as the review goes on, but this is a great place to start. It's like, we're going to actually do it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I know that sounds like saying it's an admirable effort, sounds like a patronising pat on the head, but I really mean it. I don't think the film is ultimately a triumph.
Yeah.
But there are constituent elements that suggest better possibilities.
That's the thing, you can't just rent a soundstage and just do a talk show from the 70s. There's a lot of stuff that you have to...
Yeah.
There's a lot of preparation you have to do, and there's a lot of details you have to get right. Mostly. Like this...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you weren't as big a fan of it as me, but like, you'll never find me. One of the salient things I took from it was, I really want to see a second film. And that's kind of my takeaway from this as well. David Dastmalchian, who plays the host, he's good, and it's nice to see him in a leading role. The texture is spot on for the period, as are the costumes, as is the set. I don't want to underemphasize the skill and quality of much of the direction. Because you tune into it, it's easy to take for granted after a certain point.
Yeah.
But the choreography is deceptively precise. That said, some of the camera placements are off.
Yeah, there are moments where it kind of breaks.
Yeah. They're rare,
Yeah.
but it's what was needed for the film, not how a talk show would actually be filmed.
And that's really that's the decision you have to make when you're making something like this, is how much do you sacrifice
How pure are you going to be?
for the sake of authenticity.
Yeah. How do you commit to far more content?
Because there are some instances where the shot that you have to do can't be done with the limitations of big studio cameras.
In which case, I would argue, then why are you bothering?
Why are you bothering?
Yeah.
And there are also moments as well, like within this film, where just the mise-en-scène can't be done diegetically.
Yeah.
The demonic possession, for example, a lot of the sound effects that accompany that, you wouldn't hear those sound effects.
Yeah, that's the thing. The fundamental flaw in this film that's had rave reviews is that it's all about the form. It's all about the presentation of the thing.
Yeah.
And as a result, it breaks a lot of rules.
Yeah.
But that's on its own terms. We're not being nitpicky.
No, yeah.
Okay, and also for a talk show, some of the bits go on for way too long.
Yeah.
For what would be intended as a fast-paced late-night show. Yeah, the presentation is the thing of this film. It's its USP. And the presentation is pretty messy.
Yes.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
It's framed as a documentary about the taping, but that never comes back into play after the prologue, and it just adds a complication.
I think it's just an excuse for them to contextualize and justify the behind-the-scenes segments that fill up the commercial breaks.
Yes.
Which I think we both have a problem with those.
We do. The film is not really informed by the historical context that it offers.
Yeah.
I suspect it's just that the filmmakers are intrigued by that period.
Yeah.
As am I. So they put in all the stuff, right? You've got Nixon, Vietnam, moral panics, secret societies, Bohemian Grove, demonic possession, satanic cults. Incidentally, much of that troposphere and background could have been alluded to in the monologue and the conversations.
Yeah.
The stuff they wanted to get to you could have got from his monologue. Okay, so this is historical context. He's talking about Carter and, Reagan and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The behind-the-scenes found footage segments during the commercial breaks offer very little.
And I think that's ultimately the problem, is because your assumption is, okay, these are here because they have to be here.
Yeah, because why would you do it otherwise?
Why would you do it here? Yeah, why would you do it otherwise?
And ignoring the fact that, they're all mic'd?
Yeah, I mean, that's just
a conceit.
A conceit of pretty much everything in the genre now, right? Mockumentaries. Because, I know it's not funny, but this is, mockumentary style. The UK Office is sort of the only one that got this right, wasn't it?
Properly committed to the realism and,
Every other example of this, like Modern Family, for example, it feels like it's just an excuse for them to occasionally mug the camera and for them to do characters, interviews with them in
100%.
character.
No one behaves as they would.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it doesn't really forward the plot. It just reinforces what you already know.
Yeah, and it kind of foreshadows what's to come.
Right.
Which is what the show should be doing. And that's why I don't like it, is because there are one or two instances where they absolutely get it right.
Yeah.
After, I can't remember the name of the guy that, he's contacting the dead. But yeah, he's contacting the dead, and then he ends up vomiting black goo across the stage.
Yes.
Oh, do you want to say your thing about the black goo?
No, I'm sure I'll come to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, when it cuts to commercial break, he's kind of quickly ushered off stage. And they kind of set up for the next segment. And then when we're back after the commercial and it's back to the talk show, there's a moment where you can hear he's telling the audience, don't worry, the guy's fine. And you hear an ambulance arrive in the background, a siren. Yeah. And you see on the character's face for a moment a flash of panic.
Yes.
That's all you needed.
Exactly.
To know that the situation's getting out of hand.
Suggestion.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of... I might... Again, we watched this quite a while ago, the notes were made a while ago, so I might well go into this, but there's a tension to seeing something where you don't get to see behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's like they try and present a certain thing to the world and something's not right.
Yeah.
And cracks start to appear and...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good horror form.
Yeah. And remaining in that verisimilitude, remaining in that fiction that the film has presented to you, whether that would just be you'd cut from the end of one segment to the beginning of the other, cutting out the commercial breaks entirely.
Yeah.
Or, I think Red Letter Media suggested this, fake commercials.
I was thinking that, fake commercials.
That would be fun. Because not only is it just like a fun interlude to kind of relieve the tension, you can kind of do the opposite. You can start building the tension because that's your opportunity to get a window into the world outside of the show.
Exactly. Well, that's how you give it historical context, obviously. That's part of it. Also, it depends on what you do with the story. but like whatever possession or what is happening in the show, what if it starts leaking out into the adverts and like, what's that about? Like, it depends what you want to do with it.
Because I think they do that towards the end when it fully breaks, like intentionally breaks its form.
Yeah.
The ident of the show, the please stand by screen, like melts or something, doesn't it?
Right, yeah. Okay, yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing. Analog horror has been around on YouTube for quite a while now. This is something the internet has kind of perfected.
Yeah.
What's it called? Like Station 83 or something?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, Channel 53 or something. Yeah, where it's, again, the idea is that these are recordings of late night programming on a channel.
Yeah.
And weird things start happening. The pictures distort, weird messages come through.
And that stuff is right up my alley.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. It's the whole Wikipedia list of unusual articles page where it's unsolved, and just there's this videotape and no one really knows where it comes from. I love stuff like, and just the idea of discovering something. Late night TV.
Yeah.
It's this like Twilight Zone place where just maybe you saw a film when you were a kid and you can't remember it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, what was that film? And I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's
and then you're kind of given the opportunity to revisit it later down the road, and it's like, oh fuck, there's something wrong with this.
Yeah, something's off. Yeah. But anyway, so those behind the scenes things, they just don't feel right, do they? 'Cause like, who's filming?
Yeah.
One thing.
Who's filming and what are they for?
Yeah, why? Is everyone mic constantly? It's not presented as being surreptitious either. It's just handheld. He's not doing it secretly.
Yeah.
It's just handheld, so you get that kind of...
And it doesn't feel like the characters are, despite the fact that they are talking in secret.
Yeah.
And that they're sharing secrets they don't want anybody to know. It doesn't feel like they're trying to avoid that film crew that's apparently there.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the denouement, like as you talked about, it breaks from all established rules, which obviously is deliberate, but then I don't know what I'm supposed to be watching. I thought I was watching a kind of documentary about this taping.
Yeah, well, that's supposed to be the source of horror, isn't it? It's being presented as one thing, but it's becoming another.
Yeah.
Of its own volition, seemingly.
Yeah, okay. The camera lies when Carmichael hypnotizes Gus.
Oh, right, okay.
Ignoring the fact that I wouldn't have been hypnotized, thank you very much. It's just kind of cheating. Also,
and I have... this is, I think, the one place where you and I differ on this. Yeah.
Also, it cuts away to the audience and the other guests when the hypnosis is taking place. So the viewers at home wouldn't have been similarly...
Yeah, that's wrong. Anyway. I'll agree with you on that. That's wrong. If the idea is that we're supposed to be hypnotized, you have to hypnotize us, actually. It has to stay on the thing.
And I know, like, when we first watched it, and I didn't like that the camera lied, because I'm watching a recording. I'm not and you're like, oh no, the idea is you were hypnotized into seeing it as well. Yeah. Fine. Like, that's just a kind of disagreement over how pure the film is being. Yeah. But you would agree that I can't have been hypnotized if I'm not watching it if I'm not watching the hypnosis.
I think I agreed with you at the time that I understand what the film is doing. Yeah. And I understand that what it wants to do, i.e. actually hypnotize you and make you see something that isn't happening, is probably impossible.
Yeah, and that's fine. And it's a great idea. Yeah. And if it done it purely, I would have less of an issue with it. Yeah. But I can't have been hypnotized.
No. And also... we do have a recent example where we weren't hypnotized, but the film did successfully trick us. Okay. And that is Glass Onion, where...
Right, the name.
The name, yeah. Towards the end of, like, the first half of Glass Onion, before the big reveal where, oh, she's actually a twin and it's all planned. Yeah. The characters intentionally drop the pretense, but you just don't pick up on it. Like, when he calls her by her real name. We didn't know that. Until the film pointed it out later.
Yeah.
And
it's just an itch at the back of your head that you're not conscious of until... because you're so used to kind of making sense of things and kind of ignoring other things. Yeah. That when it's addressed, you're reminded that you did have a problem with it. Yeah. But it just doesn't register at the time. Yeah, that's really interesting.
It is really interesting, yeah. And so, yeah, there's no way that the film can lie to us because, as you say, it's a recording. Yeah. But you can, and it's not easy, I know, you can carry out a sort of sleight of hand.
You can, and also, let's face it.
And it would have been great if during the hypnosis segment they did sleight of hand. And they did genuinely trick you.
And also, it's not just that, like, oh, you were hypnotized. It's pretty out there and excessive, like, what they're making you see.
There's no way that you would be fooled into thinking, oh, maybe this is happening. Like, it's clear it's not.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. There's a lot of double dosing on the cake with this film. Yeah. It's predictable. I know it's more satisfying when twists are planted earlier, but the game is given away from the off.
Yeah.
The Grove is mentioned in the introductory spiel about him.
Yeah.
And even if you know nothing about Bohemian Grove, the narrator outright tells you it's secretive and it has the power to make or break careers. So if you know anything about the nature and structure of drama, you know that some Faustian pact has taken place.
Yeah.
And furthermore, you know that it'll probably end up as a monkey's paw type deal, which it does.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence was used for apparently 3 interstitials.
Yes.
A lot of people will say that it's so minor we shouldn't make a big deal out of it, but we should.
Well, this is where it starts, isn't it? It starts as just 1 or 2 interstitials.
First, they came for the socialists.
Yeah.
The rule needs to be none whatsoever. Nada, niet, zilch, zip, zero. It actually points to another wrinkle. Analog horror is an invention of our generation, looking back. And it's very much a YouTube, social media, creepypasta creation.
Yeah, of course.
So the fact that AI was used in the production of this old-timey film crystallizes this feeling of uncomfortable impurity.
In a way that doesn't benefit the horror.
No, yeah, that's difficult to fully articulate.
Yeah.
I saw a video where Saltburn was described as the Tumblification of cinema, and this is kind of the creepypastification of cinema.
Oh, okay, alright, yeah.
The presentation has some novelty, though it's not the first of its type, but its contents are cliches, from the creepy young girl to the demon having a cutesy, sinister name. I don't understand the neck cracking.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant by sound effects.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
Even if the mics were able to pick it up, it wouldn't happen.
No, yeah, I don't get the why. It's just, even though it's been manipulated,
yeah,
I'm doing it right now. My neck isn't cracking.
Yeah.
It's,
There's no way, you can't, even if the idea is that the demon is moving the body involuntarily, your neck doesn't crack. If it does, you're dead.
Exactly, yeah.
And the demon has no puppet anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
The pacing can sometimes be quite stilted. The James Randi facsimile, whatever that guy's, the skeptic, he gets way too much freedom and airtime.
That's the thing. I can I'm not saying that I forgive the film.
Yeah.
But I can sort of get on board with the idea that as things become stranger and they realise that it's going more and more off script,
right,
everyone's kind of abandoning the structure.
Yeah, I get that. But
it doesn't feel like that's what's happening.
No, he's a guest that's there for the whole show.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Christou's, that's the name of the...
Oh, right.
Yeah. His vomit is CG.
Yeah.
And that really stands out in this analog horror.
Yeah, well, it's a small indie horror, or at least that's the way that it's presented, is a small indie horror. It should be physical and tactile and like chunky.
It should be gooey. Yeah,
and gooey. It shouldn't
gooey
be
and just kind of like I watched The Thing today.
Yeah,
it should feel like that. Physical effects, plastic reality.
Yeah, and I know this isn't like a slasher or a gory film, but I think that's a feeling we both fear. It's like, if you're gonna do CG blood in a slasher, don't bother. Don't make it. You're missing the point.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, it was a strange decision to add a comic beat in the climax. So when she's fully possessed, I think that the skeptic starts he starts writing a check or something, doesn't he?
Okay, right.
There's a comic beat in the climax.
Yeah.
Which leads into the final criticism. It's not scary.
That's the biggest problem.
That's the big problem.
Yeah.
When the horror does become explicit, it goes from 0 to 90.
Yeah.
And it's too over the top to be creepy. That dark corner of the internet, the mysterious, unsettling videos, all of which obviously have some rational explanation, though it's much more tasty to let the mystery be. The beauty of them is their inexplicability.
Yeah.
Their genesis unknown to us. That's why this film should have just been the show as filmed that evening. Stripping it of any framing device or breaks would have heightened the sense of discomfort and added an interesting challenge to feed all the information and exposition we needed into this constrained, controlled format. It would have felt all the richer for it. So yeah, just as a writer, you go, ooh, okay, I have to give all this information to the audience. That's a challenge. That's an interesting challenge to me. How do I do that?
Yeah.
You don't give the audience 4, you give them 2 plus 2, right?
Yeah.
As Andrew Stanton said. I wouldn't say this film spoon feeds you, so maybe it is 2 plus 2, but what you want in a film like this is 8 divided by 4 plus 1 plus 1.
Right.
You want to preserve that feeling of discovery. I had similar issues with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. I'm not a sap. I know I'm paying for a ticket and sitting in a theatre.
Yeah.
But thereafter comes the willing suspension of disbelief. Just drop me into this world without preparation and freak me out.
Yeah.
Don't contextualize it too much.
Yeah.
Just there's this thing and you're getting to experience it now.
Yeah, all that stuff about the camp. Well, I guess it's like a secret society thing.
Yeah.
But
Bohemian Grove, you mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. That's where the challenge comes in. You could have done a commercial that wasn't necessarily for that place.
Yeah.
But like made reference to that place in some way.
Yeah, turn right for a local business, like make a right on blah blah, and it's just off Bohemian Road, something like that.
Yeah, it's like, what's this freaky place?
Yeah.
Oh, what's this? Like, there is a way of doing it.
There is.
There is a way of doing it, and that's the thing. As you said, like early on, this has been met with universal praise, pretty much. So, in a sense, it's like, well, should they have all of the things that we don't like and that we would have liked to have, like, would have made us like the film more? Does it matter? Because they got what they wanted. They made a successful film.
Yeah. I mean, it's incumbent upon us to say what we genuinely feel about it. It's, I think of the Dave Chappelle thing, though, in terms of the critical reception, where he talks about, whether people laugh at him on stage or whether it goes down badly. He says, I'm like Evel Knievel, I get paid for the attempt.
Yeah.
And I think it's similarly, like, people admire what they try to do. And I think it's the kind of film that cineasts really want to love.
Yeah.
It's the kind of film I wanted to like a lot.
Yeah.
But like, it's kind of a unique thing. It's like... And so they're kind of making themselves like it, I think. Because, it's not scary. And it's not pure. It has a good lead performance and a solid concept.
Yeah.
But the execution was a bit wanting, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I don't know what that means for... I guess it's still a recommendation for me, weirdly. Like,
I mean, it's the kind of film I would say, if you're into film... I mean, you've already seen it. It's one of those films you have to see this year.
Yeah.
But if you're into film, by all means, give it a go.
Like, I don't know if
but I wouldn't recommend it to horror fans.
Well, that's the thing. I wouldn't go out of my way to recommend it. Like, if someone said, think about, like, recommend a horror film to me, I don't know if I would recommend this necessarily. But I certainly wouldn't stop people from
I wouldn't say, don't watch it, it's trash. I wouldn't... No, absolutely not. If you're interested, check it out. I don't think it's very good.
Yeah, there are far better examples on YouTube.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's all we got.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you in episode. I gotta edit this. We'll see you in episode. I gotta do it now as well.
You gotta do it as well.
Alright, see you in episode 78. Bye.
Bye.